The
Fuck
backlash.
off. They can fuck right off. All of them can fuck right off. If you read a story, you read a fucking story and pitch a fit. You play a game with a story and you get upset, Jesus Christ, because they had sex and had a kid. My God, the world's gonna end. Where the fuck did you come from?
Hello, everyone. We are back. It's episode 83 of the Thought Patrol podcast. We have returned this week. Me and Shawn, as always, because all the other hosts have forgotten and have abandoned us. They no longer care about this project. And that is, I'm going on record stating that today we have been forsaken. On a lighter note, we're here. We're going to be... I was thinking we can sit down, have a nice little chat about Resident Evil 2 and some other games we might want to see get the Resident Evil 2 treatment. So I have a few that I'd like to see kind of remastered and completely redone, but still remaining to their core what they were originally. So, before we move forward, intros. I got Shawn here. I'm sure he's had an absolutely fantastic, just blissful, stress-free, no issues whatsoever week that it's almost sickening how much of a fantastic week you've had, right, Shawn?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Okay. I'm glad I was right on point. Is there anything you'd like to share for this week? Anything important?
God, there's so many blissful things to talk about. I don't
glad.
even know where to start.
Well, see,
I shacked up with Kate Beckinsale, like the wet leather catsuit Kate Beckinsale. So
that's old news. We all know about that already.
I got two pet giraffes, and I trained them to fight on command.
Nice. With their necks, right? They just slap the shit out of things with their necks.
Yeah,
that's
I
awesome.
call it Giraffe Club.
Okay.
And that's really all I've got on my bucket list right now is Kate Beckinsale and Giraffe Fight Club. So,
okay.
When I think of something else that's doing interesting, maybe
shoving the whole top of the Eiffel Tower inside your asshole, or not all of it, obviously, but like at least being able to wrap your butt around a portion, or your butthole specifically around a portion of the Eiffel Tower. That's on my bucket list.
What are you talking about? That's been in there for like 6 weeks.
Okay. 6 weeks. You're slacking. Well, I'm glad that we share uniquely interesting death or wishes to things to do before we die. Isn't that what the Eiffel Tower is, right? You just wrap your butthole around the Eiffel Tower. Yeah. That's what all the cool kids want to do these days. Cocaine and wrapping their butthole around the Eiffel Tower. Yeah.
French monuments, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I think you could probably go with Tokyo Tower, but like it's just not the same, when it's not French.
No, yeah. I think isn't that like a pastime for French people? Like that's just something you do. It's like a coming of age kind of ceremony. So every French person has their asshole penetrated by the Eiffel Tower at least once in their lifetime, and I just want to live that culture. Yeah, I just want to live that culture out. Be a little bit more aware of my surroundings and being a little bit more in tune with the culture and other cultures around the world. I think that's an important thing to have because not too many people are privy to that fact. So I'm glad that we could share that with you guys today. I'm glad this is probably one of the most beneficial segues we've had on this show, and we're only 3 minutes into this episode. So I think that's quite fantastic.
Yeah, I count myself blessed.
I'm glad. I'm glad someone does, because if you don't recognize it yourself, then I think that leads to the fall, and that's when all you have to say is all I was able to do was put the Eiffel Tower inside my anus, and you lose all those other doors close, and you just lose that opportunity. So,
I don't want to sound thankless either. I'm not spoiled. I'm not one of those rich kids. I'm not gonna run around being like, oh, all I got was. I mean, it's the Eiffel fucking Tower. All right, that is a huge accomplishment. It's a massive, massive monument. This isn't the. I should be proud of that.
Exactly. So, did you get your did you take your little crayon and write your name as how far you got, or how far the Eiffel Tower got into you? You just like went down and scratched your name into that. It's like a couple feet in kind of thing.
It's on the wall next to it. You can see it if you go there.
Oh, nice.
There's a little drawing of a Batman head right next to it.
Beautiful. What the fuck are we talking about? Oh, it was intros. We're gonna save the RE talk for when we get there. So I know that you've played a little bit, right? A little bit RE, but
a fair amount, but
okay.
I know
the game
inside now.
I never played the original RE2.
Didn't add any story beats. It's not really a remake or a remaster. It's almost a reinvention, but they still stick with all the same story beats and shit. They didn't add or remove anything.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes me angry is how difficult it is to platinum that particular game. Like they made the on the first run you have to get under 3 hours, no, 2 hours and 50 minutes. On the second run you have to get it under 2.5 hours in order to get the unlimited ammo weapons, which I don't really care about, but I just, that's what I did in the last one. Was I platinumed at the last game when there were no trophies. There was nothing like that. And I did every single secret in that game. And it was a challenge, but it wasn't what they've made it now. Like, they've made it work now. And there's a difference. And that part's fucking annoying as shit. But overall, like, I would say the game's as good as it was before.
Well, how did you get the unlimited weapons prior, if it wasn't like a time requirement?
You had to. It was a combination of how long it took you to get through the game, how many times you saved, and which weapons you uncovered on the way there. So how thorough you were when you played was more important than the time it took, and then it balanced those factors.
I got you.
So I uncovered every weapon, and I only saved like twice or something like that.
Okay.
And I made it through the whole game like a Billy Badass, but there was a limit to what you could do and whatnot. There are guides online that would get more specific, but that's what I remember. And I remember when I played it, I played Leon in the demo, and then when I actually got the game, I played Claire first, I think, and then I played Leon. Or I played Leon and then Claire. I don't know, but I'm starting with Claire this time.
Oh, nice. She looks a lot like her updated look. She reminds me of Zoe from Left 4 Dead, like the way she looks, with like the ponytail and the red jacket kind of thing. I get that vibe. She doesn't look
anything like she did in Revelations, though. And Revelations was the last game Claire showed up in, so it's kind of weird. Like they kept the same essential next generation look for her through Revelations and what was that game she was in before? Oh, the movie where at the airport where she ran into Leon.
Okay.
And she was in that one, and she had the same look, and now they've made her look younger or something. I mean, I get it; it's her first appearance, but Leon doesn't really look like Leon, and she doesn't exactly look like her either. It's kind of weird. It's not a huge complaint, I just don't understand why they didn't just make a younger looking Leon and a younger looking Claire than the models that they're using in the updated games.
Yeah. We'll wrap back around to the Resident Evil talk because I have a lot to say as well. Being it the first time I've played through the game, because I didn't play the original Resident Evil 2, so I'm excited to talk about that when we get there. But anything else intro wise? Anything else you did that is talk worthy that you want to share with us?
I put in 2 applications over the week. It took me like 18 hours with my laptop.
Jeez.
And especially that test. Like, I had to really fuck with my browsers and go in and do some soft hacking shit to fucking get the stuff to work right. And I still couldn't see the introductory videos. One of them I started to hear audio and then it died out, so I didn't know what test I was walking into, so I couldn't prepare. So I just had to start the test. I'm like, oh, that's what it is. It's the grammar one. Okay. Because there was, normally you get like a little thing in the beginning where you'll have a video and there'll be some chick who works in a nearby office or whatever. And she's like, hi, I'm Claire. I'm so-and-so with the company. And our mission is this. We're going to test you on this because it's super important.
Yeah. Have you ever smoked crack?
Yeah.
If you did, what type of surface was it off of? And have you ever been found?
You get the question like, if you have to beat someone, would you beat them A, until they're bloody, B, until they say yes, daddy, or C, until they squirt?
Hey. We live in a fucking PC. I can't think of the word. Whatever. We live in a PC environment. It's no longer daddy. It's fuck. And
I'm sorry, father.
No, it's not matriarchal, Shawn. Or patriarchal. Father? We're gender neutral here. What's it called? I lost the word. There's like another word to replace like choke me daddy. It's something else and I don't remember. Well,
Master?
But you think with all the stupid shit I come across on the internet from my different circles that I would remember some of the more important things like the new word for daddy. I don't think it was master, but it was something. If anyone in the chat, if you're big into that kink, let me know. I'd love to hear from you.
They really killed the daddy thing. That's not a joke.
I'm sure people still do it, but there was but you know how it might have been a joke, but it's kind of hard to tell sarcasm over text, especially on Twitter and shit like that. So I don't entirely know how serious that person was when they wrote that. I don't know if they were sober when they wrote that. I don't know if they were of the right mind, if they had just slammed a line of something. I have no idea. So I'm not too sure. But I saw it, and you know how the internet works. If it's there in text, it's obviously true, and that person meant everything they said so that you can pull it later and haunt them with it. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I remember reading it. I just don't remember what the word was, and it's going to come to me as I try and fall asleep later tonight. It's going to hit me like a truck, and I'm going to be like, oh, yeah. And then...
It'll hit you like a Q-tip in your dick hole.
Yeah, oh, God. And we had a conversation about, well, not you and me, but me, Nick... Oh, no, was it you and me, too? I don't remember. There was a conversation about urethral insertion going on in our little friends group. And we talked about it for like a good 15, 20 minutes. And I remember it was while we were playing Final Fantasy.
Definitely a Nick conversation. Like, that sounds like something he would start. Like, if it involves extremely awkward and your genitals, like, he'll be the first person that
I think it was him. Because I remember him starting the conversation with no homo, hey. But I'm like, oh, I don't know. You kind of dug a hole here that you can't really avoid because... you're talking about shoving shit down your penis. And then Hector piped in with like the midget dildos, and apparently there's small things that can go into your dick hole and blah, blah, blah. It just sounds very painful, like, to think about it. Because it's like, I mean, like when you pass a kidney stone, I know they're kind of large when you do it. That comes out your dick hole, and that's usually a pretty painful experience. So I can't imagine inserting a rod down that hole and getting pleasure out of that. But hey, again.
Unless you're severely kinked. Like, the only time something goes in there is when you're getting checked for STDs.
I don't even want to think about that. That just sounds painful just thinking about that.
I don't even know if they have to do that anymore.
I think that might have been a conversation that happened while me and Nick were playing Final Fantasy.
That's the Nick thing. Nick has the most disgusting fucking ideas. And I wonder sometimes.
You know what baffles me? He didn't know about cake farts. I had to bestow upon him the knowledge of cake farts, and I thought he knew about it. So
but that's relatively tame compared to what I mean. Nick is the one that went out and looked for a video with somebody sticking his penis in his own ass, and then tried to get everyone to watch it because he thought it was hilarious. So Nick watched that video like 30 some odd times.
Yeah. And he thought, this is perfect to share with my friends. I watched like the start of that video. I saw the size of that dude's dick. I realized that is a possibility and then didn't wait to see the action. I just had understood that this was coming, and I'd rather have not seen this action to fruition. So I just gave up on it. But I saw the size of his wiener, and I'm like, okay, that's a pretty big wiener. It will probably go into his butt. And And again, some men are strong as gods, and we just have to respect them for their actions. We can't really help there. The thing at that point is, if your wiener's too big, it's I know everyone's like, "Ooh, big wiener," blah blah blah, but like there needs to be like a perfect size / girth. If your wiener's too big / too girthy, then no one's gonna want to have like sex with you because or I don't even know how pleasing that would be for the dude if you could only get the head in and a little bit further, and you can't get full. I don't know. We're talking about this. You can't get full stimulation on the shaft.
This just keeps going and going. Like I keep thinking the conversation's going to stop. No, it just keeps going.
There's a lot of avenues for this thought process. This train does not derail so easily. But see now I'm gonna be thinking about be thinking about shoving a wiener in your own butt for the rest of the night, and that's no bueno.
I guarantee you that will not be a thought that pervades my thoughts anytime soon. But they say that the ideal length for hetero is between
1.5 inches. Perfect for me.
Yeah, about 1.5, between 5 to 7 inches, and I don't know what it was for gay, but I know that the erogenous zone inside the buttocks is like 2.5 inches in.
Yeah, I don't think you want a big wiener in your butt either, because I mean it can go in there, but it's not as spacey as the cooter is. So there's a little bit of, you don't want any tearing going on, especially with the possibility of poop lingering in the vicinity. Okay, let's move on. I'm done with this conversation. All right, I'm glad you had a good week, Shawn.
I mean, well, it was good until you lasted in that conversation.
My week was pretty good. I can't really think. I had a really shitty day at work. Like yesterday. Was it Saturday night? Yeah, Saturday night. A really awful day at work. Just everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. From running out of CO2, so the fountain drink machine wasn't working, so I couldn't get anyone fountain drinks. I was just giving them the bottled ones for the same price. We ran out of baked bread. On top of that, I had to bake more bread, but that bread was for an order tomorrow. And then I realized we ran out of bread, so I had to take bread from that order, pull out more bread to bake for tomorrow. And then we eventually ran out of the bread I had pulled out, and I just told people we didn't have any more white, because I wasn't about to keep like making bread, because it takes forever for it to be ready to actually be put into the proofer oven where it will rise, and then after it rises you cook it, blah blah blah, you bake it.
I has question. Is there not some sort of management error going on in this business if they are consistently running out of things? Because you are not the first Subway employee that I have befriended, and none of the other ones have ever mentioned having these constant supply problems.
Well, the CO2 is just something that happens as a matter of time. I'm thinking the bread got fucked up because the person that worked before me did not bake the right amount, because I think they were newer. So I think that's where that came from. But for actually running out of a supply, not like prepared supplies, but running out of supply, that doesn't happen nearly as often as running out of prep supplies. So it might be more of the workforce there than the management issue, because for the most part, I think we have the food a lot of the time. It's just not properly prepped by the workforce. And the problem I have is all that happens during the day, and I'm supposed to technically come into a prepped station. Like there's supposed to be shit out already. I shouldn't have to come in and have to prep or have to fill up the bin where they keep all of the vegetables and meats and stuff. That should be done before I get there. But that's not always the case. Again, I don't think we have enough people either, because sometimes, I mean, you just can't do it if you're by yourself. Work in the store and there's people coming in, you don't have the time to prep. You don't have the time to do other things. This is a particularly busy Subway. So that might be a management fault. I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of that. But like this night, it was just what could have gone wrong did go wrong. And like some of it was my fault. Like I had left the bread to pre-proof in the oven proofer. Jesus. I had left it in there for too long. So it had risen, I don't know. But then since it sat there too long, it had flattened afterwards. So now I had like like 6 trays, like 30 loaves of bread that had uh risen and then now look like someone stepped on them all, and I had to cook them that way. So I was trying to make sandwiches out of them where I could and salvage what I can out of that bread. So that was my fault. Someone had ordered a sandwich, and then a person came in to pick it up, but they said the name of the order. Either that or it sounded very close, so I don't know how they knew it. So I thought, oh, that's that order. You could take it because they pay for it beforehand. But apparently that was someone from DoorDash, and they just took the sandwich, not saying they were from DoorDash like they're supposed to. Soon they walk in, they say, hey, I'm from DoorDash, or hey, I'm from Uber Eats. I'm here for the order. I was busy. They said the name, which would how it works if you were doing a remote order, and I gave them that name, and they took it. And then I get a call from someone that they got the sandwich that they didn't want, so I had to sit on the support line to get that order refunded to that person because they didn't get what they wanted. And then on top of that, I have another person come in, and now I have a sandwich sitting in the store that's not what that person wants, so I have to make them another sandwich. And then the refund is actually put on the account for the store because it doesn't come from DoorDash because it was our fault. So the refund comes from us. So just all this shit that just happened and just kept piling on. It was raining the whole night, so I couldn't throw any garbage out because it was just like pouring outside, and I'd get like completely soaked. So I had to wait till it died down and then just take like a metric ton of garbage outside to throw it out. Just a mess, and everything was just stacking on itself. I almost forgot my Switch inside the store, and as I was walking out to lock the door and leave, I remembered it, and I'm like, oh, thank God, and I ran back in and grabbed it. But it was just a messy night. Probably one of the worst nights I've had there. Like doing it. For the most part, it's relatively chill, but like weekends are hit or miss. I guess they never miss, huh? I don't know. That hurt me saying that. I'm sorry. I apologize for my behaviors. What else was I gonna say?
I don't know, but you've had many stories of like running out of this and that not working.
Oh yeah.
I worked in restaurants. Like I didn't work in a lot of fast food restaurants, but I worked in restaurants, and I know, what it's like to run out of shit. But it's happens a lot with you.
Yeah, it does. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the exact cause. I just roll with the punches a lot of time. I've gotten very good at rolling with the punches. Like when it comes to like if I'm out of something, I don't really fret about it. I'll just tell the person, "Hey, I'm out of this," and that's really because it's really out of my power. Like if it's not like in the store or something, or if something like CO2 related, which is something you can't ever control, you'll just run out. And if you
guys don't carry as fair.
As far as I understand, they have like 2 lines and they both operate at the same time. I think it's the way the store has it wired, but they don't. I don't think because the store's smaller. Something along the lines you can't keep like potentially explosive things in the back. I don't know, something like that. I heard someone over talking about it. I don't know the inner workings of why this works and why this doesn't, because I just make sandwiches at this point. So, maybe if I do ever become a manager, it'll be something I have to learn. But hey, we'll see what happens. But besides that, I'm playing Resident Evil. We'll talk about that when we get there. What else? I had come across a show, actually, Shawn, that had surprised me that it had come out. It's coming out right now. It's just not on Crunchyroll. We'd have to watch it a different way. But it's called, have you heard of, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Dororo or Dororo? Dororo? I don't remember. No, not Durarara. Not Durarara. Say they sound alike, but it's not Durarara. It's Dororo. Yeah, Dororo. It's like this kid. And it was a manga that came out like 50 years ago. As like this little cute chibi kid that his arms, he had lost his arms or something, and he can pull off like from like, so say your hand, you go like halfway down your forearm, that part, like say imagine that being cut off on both sides, and he can take those off, and underneath are literally swords. So he pulls them off, and he has 2 swords that stick out. They made an anime for it, and it's like coming out right now, and it looks badass. It looks really cool, and it looks like a feudal Japan kind of drama, but it's got a kid with katana arms and shit. I don't know. It looks cool. And there's monsters. I mean, they fight a slime monster or something. I don't know. I haven't seen too much of it. I just saw that clip on iFunny, and I'm like, ooh, this looks interesting. So I researched it, and I'm like, oh crap, I might watch this. But
I've been watching Arslan,
watching
the
what?
newer one, the Heroic Legends of Arslan.
Oh yeah. But I can't think of anything else. I think that's about it. Play a little bit of Smash here and there. Really liking that game. I'm kind of in this lull where I'm waiting for Joker to come out, so I could dedicate all my time to learning him and kind of trying to master him as a character, so I could play him, which is probably everyone's MO. I still need to get that. There's like a Piranha Plant. The Piranha Plant fighter. If you got the game, he's like free. But you have to redeem a code in order to do it, and I keep forgetting, and I have to like the 31st to do it, and I think after that you have to pay for them. I don't know exactly how it works, but so I need to do that still. Because the worst part about a fighting game is not having all the roster and having someone come over and they can't play their character because for some reason you don't have the roster. I hate that. But yeah, that's about it. Really enjoying RE. Again, we'll talk about that. And been playing a lot of Final Fantasy, leveling up my character. I did actually the newest alliance raid that they introduced in 4.5, the Orbone Monastery or whatever it's called. Super fucking awesome raid. It was so much fun, and there had like very cool like fights and the way that the fights worked and like the spectacle behind the fights. Everything about it was awesome, super fun, really cool to do that as a first run through, and just little problems here and there. We died on the first boss, the lady that uses the sword and shield thing, because we weren't... I mean, I watched the video, but I was kind of watching it as we were going to, so I wasn't fully aware of things, and I was tanking. So Alliance Raids is weird with tanking, because you have 3 tanks technically in the 24 people, and one will main tank. If he dies, or if he gets sucked out of the raid for whatever reason, because some bosses have those mechanics, so the other tank just hops in and pulls the aggro, but there's 3. So sometimes you're not sure if the other tank's going to do it or not. So sometimes I'll have it where I'll jump in front of the boss to face him away, and I'll cast ultimatums to get me on the top of the list of aggro, so I could start generating aggro and keeping him away from the team. And then as soon as I do that, I'll see the other tank do the exact same thing. And I'm like, oh shit. So now we both wasted ultimatum. And now it's like, who actually is going to main tank, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of hard to do, especially when like the only way you can talk to these people is through text, unless you're playing with a 23 man team and you're doing a raid that way. But it was really fun. Like the fights were awesome. I got one piece of 390 gear, and it was for my head, and I already had a 390 helmet, so that kind of saddened me. And so now I have to wait till the week resets to get another piece. But I need to continue unlocking all the other like raids and trials and stuff that give you that weekly reset, so I could start collecting like high level gear and stuff like that. So but I'm still enjoying the game and really enjoying tanking, like just in like high level scenarios. I think the tanking is quite fun in this game, especially like what you're managing and trying to do. And I've been enjoying it. Again, as always, it's Final Fantasy. What else? Been having fun. I know me and Hector and Nick went through some of the Deltascape stuff, which is like these long lists of fights from older Final Fantasy games inside of the Deltascape, which is like this weird area that exists between dimensions or some shit, and there's like this figure trying to rise up and basically emulate the Warrior of Light and create their own, and it's called Omega, and you're trying to stop that basically, because that'd be very OP. We don't want an enemy Warrior of Light, because the Warrior of Light is technically the strongest being in the like, at least in the Final Fantasy lore for this thing, because you always win. You're the Warrior of Light. It's just how it is. You always prevail in one way or another. So it's super fun. Again, really loving the game. I know Perry got back into it, one of our friends. He's playing again.
Perry's playing again?
Yeah, he picked up a DPS. I don't know which one. I just told him to find something that he thinks is fun and just do that, because we have enough roles to fill. We can fill anything, and a lot of the high end stuff you matchmake anyway. So we're never going to have to be worrying about having 8 people for the most part. And even then, there's the party finder, so we can fill. That's not a problem. I told him just pick something that will keep you playing the game and have you enjoying it. Don't force yourself to do something you won't be having fun with. And then later on, as we diversify more, we can worry about being a tank or a healer or whatever you want to do. But for now, just pick something so you'll stay with the game, so we could actually play the game together and stuff. So that's been I talked to him a bit, and I've seen him on here and there. I was doing challenges today, and I saw him on a bit, but yeah, it's fun. So that's how I've been doing good. Been enjoying life. Bada bing, bada boom. Excited for Kingdom Hearts on Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. It's coming up. I know that. And then we have Anthem on the 13th.
Excited, but I won't be playing it until I finish the other one, so it's going to be a while before I actually go.
I've heard across the board it's like between like a 7 and a 9, leaning closer to like the 8-ish side from like reviewers.
Yeah, the gameplay is fire, but everyone's complaining that they've done nothing to fix the story.
I don't think they want to. I think they like it as convoluted as it is, which is Square.
The thing is, none of the fans do. Like, not even the diehard Kingdom Hearts fans who understand it are like not pleased that they had to invest 200 hours worth of reading and have like focus groups just to figure out, okay, what do you think this means? And how did that work out? Wait a minute, who would? And then this guy would. All right, I think, but that doesn't. Like that's fucking insane.
Yeah,
and Square is known for making notoriously, for a period there, they were known for making these notoriously convoluted stories. And sometimes there's a lot of value in that, but oftentimes you can tell the exact same story. And I'm not talking. By the way, I'm not talking about like softening it up for a Western audience. That's not what I mean at all. I mean like just unnecessarily ridiculously convoluted, like that one guy that thinks he's smarter than he is, and he's constantly patting himself on the shoulder about how smart he is about writing this story, like the guy from Monogatari.
Yeah,
well, only that's like Square. That was Square all the time for like 15 years. Everything from Final Fantasy 7 to Final Fantasy 13. No, actually they're still doing it. I was going to say with 13 where they really went off the rails with, but then I realized, oh wait, there's 15. What am I talking about? They're still doing that. And you could tell the same story with the same story beats and not tie a shitload of knots in the story and make people have to read primers online to understand what happened. Because it's not just American audiences that don't get what the fuck is going on in Kingdom Hearts. If you talk to Japanese Kingdom Hearts fans, they're still just as like, I don't know. Mickey's in it though.
I've also played a little bit of like very minimal. But today someone gave me, like, if you have access to the VIP Anthem beta, you can also bring a friend in too. Like they give a code, and I got a code from someone. So I've played like one mission, and it's fun. I mean, but that's all I've really had time to do with. I know that the way they start you in the story, you start already a little bit ahead of like where the story begins. So you're already like a little bit into the story. So it's kind of hard to get invested in that. So since when the game comes out, you're just going to restart. So it's just kind of to give you an idea. I've only done the Storm Javelin, which is the one that has like the elemental powers kind of floats around. But I think the gameplay itself is really cool. I like the idea of the verticality that being able to fly anywhere provides. So it's much easier to flank or deal with ads, or even like some of the ads will shoot like lock-on missiles onto you and you'll have to dodge midair to get out of stuff like that. I think it's cool, and I like the verticality because that's probably the most unique thing that Anthem brings to the table in this, is the idea of the verticality with the javelins and being able to traverse on pretty much any degree, because you could fly anywhere the fuck you want, go up, go down, pretty much. I mean, you can't like fly out of the map and stuff, obviously. And
it looks like there's a big emphasis on locomotion as part of combat, and that's what I thought was interesting. I was looking to see if I knew anybody on PS4 that bought it, and to see if I could go in, because Clean Prince Gaming, I think is his name, who's been pretty critical of it since it came out, was talking about it and how like it's a lot of fun to play, but there's some fairly severe issues with the game, but it really is a lot of fun to like run around and kill shit. And I was like, I want gonna go in, but I guess I have to wait till next weekend when the free beta starts because I don't know anybody with a key.
And at that point, it's the same exact thing. I hope there's some glaring issues. The PC port has some weird things to it where, like the UI feels like it was 100% built for console. Like the way the menus work and the way it's all designed, it feels like it was designed for a D-pad and shoulder buttons and stuff like that. So that because it just takes like way too many clicks to get where you need to go, or to move through the menus where they could have had everything easily set up on the menu. And I don't think they'll change that at this point. But again, we know that the demo, usually like public beta builds, are a few weeks behind schedule according to like the final product. So
they're trying to say that this was like a July build or something from like 6 months ago, and you know that's bullshit.
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. But I also, the only other thing is there's a lot of loading screens in this game, and I don't know if it's a bug, but there's also a chance to get stuck within a loading screen, moving in and out of a menu. Again, things that can be fixed. I don't know how well you can fix a loading screen issue. Because I think that's kind of goes into how the game is built. I don't know if you can just remove a loading screen and have it done in a different method, but like there other games from this genre do not have this issue. Or like you could, like Destiny, say you land on a planet, you're on that planet, you could roam the planet, and it only really activates if you like start a mission and then you go through the stupid ship thing. Where this one, you can walk into a cave and hit a loading screen. Now, technically, you are entering a mission for that, but like again, it just feels like it kind of breaks up the action. I haven't had it happen while I'm flying somewhere yet, which is nice because I think that would really be bad. But a lot of the times, if you're entering a new area, if you die and respawn, you get a loading screen, even though you're in the same area. Just things like and I don't know if that's fixable. I don't know if that's something that can be fixed as the game goes on, or if that's something that's just hardwired into the code and they just have to deal with it at this point. But there are other games from the genre that do that without having like a shitload of loading. And I've heard from a lot of people that's like kind of the pet peeve, the loading times. And I'm playing on PC and they're still pretty crazy. And I just have it on an optical disc, but it's a pretty fast optical disc. I don't remember the like read speed on it. But I've heard people that have like SSDs that are running the game and they're still having issues with just the loading screens being long. And I don't know if they can fix that or not. I hope so, because that would be very nice to not have as many loading screens. But again, game's fun. I like that there's a bit of an emphasis on team play with the way that the javelins work, being able to swap them in and out freely. Like before you go into a mission, you can switch on whatever javelin you want. So I like the diversity there. Because like in Destiny per se, you pick the warlock, you're a fucking warlock for the rest of the game unless you start a new character. But with this, you have your character, you have all your javelins, they have multiple loadouts per javelin. So if you want a certain type of ability set, weapon set on one, you can have that. You got 3 of those for the tank guy. And if you have a team coming up and you want to do a group together and it's particularly difficult, so you like, oh hey, we need a tank here, or we'll need a shock or whatever, and then you can edit your javelin team depending on what you're going into. So I think that's cool. I like that diversity. You're not locked into a particular gear set. You pretty much are free to explore and navigate or try and find combos or mess around with like what works with what. And with seeing the abilities actually work off of each other, like the elements can combo with one another, it'd be interesting to see if they put time into making that diverse, how much they can get out of having weapons combo with each other, or having like whole sets combo with each other, and making it where if your whole team is able to get a nice set from a raid or a high level dungeon, if those abilities can spark something special in the middle of a fight just while you're fighting and stuff like that, I think that'd be pretty cool. So I think again, a lot of it comes down to the end game, how fast and how quickly and how much they work with the game, like managing balancing, adding content, stuff like that to keep people around so the hype doesn't die down. Because I do think like the base of the game, the combat and the game's very pretty too. The combat prettiness of it and the maneuverability and the verticality of everything, I think they have a nice starting ground here. They just have to make sure that they're actively balancing the game, listening to their community, and making sure that endgame is challenging enough where it isn't just bullet sponges, that they're adding mechanics, adding raids, or doing things that keep people around in these types of games in this genre. So that's the biggest thing, and I hope BioWare sticks to it.
Yeah, and that they really do listen to the community, and that they're not just all about things like microtransactions. They really do appreciate the gamers, so I'm sure it'll be fine.
Well, it's EA and BioWare, and they fucked up the entire Mass Effect franchise just to get this game going.
I was being sarcastic. BioWare and EA are both the devil now, and it's probably going to be fun.
We'll see what happens. I was not
serious. I cannot believe you took that seriously.
No, I didn't. For EA, at least. I mean, but again,
BioWare is going to.
Again, we'll have to see what happens.
For a moment that BioWare is going to turn around.
We'll have to see what happens. Again, they have a promising slate. See where it goes. And will people still be playing this game in 6 months? We don't know. But I think, I don't know. I have no idea. Again, they have the odds stacked against them. But I usually don't buy EA games. So if this is the first time they fuck me, so be it. I like the premise of this game. We'll see what happens. And I really don't want to.
I like the premise since they announced it.
I really don't.
But it is EA.
Yeah, I don't want to see. I don't want to play the Division 2. And I have more faith that game would probably be better geared towards the genre because they had all of the Division 1 to do with it, and this is a new IP. But I don't want to play the Division 2. I'm like really gotta be honest. Like the Division 1 was nice. It was cool, but like from what I've seen from the Division 2, there's not much that has got me excited besides the fact that they learned their lessons from the launch of the Division. And that's not enough to bring me back where you still have like bullet sponges as people, not aliens. You're shooting people and they're absorbing 1,000 rounds of ammo. I don't know. It's just something about that. The way that game is, it doesn't pull me. And again, I like the first one for what it was. I think a lot of what made it good was that I played with people. If I played by myself, I probably would not have the same opinion on it. But then again, Endgame was disastrous. They fixed it, but then you can get back to Endgame so quickly, and then you had nothing to do. Kind of, I don't know. We'll see. I don't fucking know.
If they can, because any company, even a shitty company, has a chance of making a decent game. So if Anthem's combat pans out and it has an attractive enough story, and all the cosmetics are not handled in the way that Activision handled the cosmetics in Destiny, if they're handled in a way that is not nauseating and predatory, then I don't have a problem with that, as long as it's not a pay to fucking win thing and it's really looking like they're doing pay to win with all the data that's out there right now, like being able to buy parts and like parts that give you an advantage in combat type situation. So I'm hoping that's not true. But if for some reason, as long as it's not too awful bad, like I would like to, I'm still tempted to. It just depends on how it turns out. Because if it ends up being a halfway decent game, then I'll get it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, yeah, pay to win sucks. But if pay to win doesn't directly affect you, I mean, it's a negative, obviously, because it doesn't. There's no PvP in this game. How would someone buying parts affect you as a person just playing?
I thought it was competitive in terms of teams and shit like that.
No, it's entirely PvE. As far as right now, I don't know if they have any plans for the future. Or PvP.
Oh, I don't really give a shit then. As long as it has no impact on my game.
Oh.
And it doesn't mean like the thing is like, do you remember what they did with what was that? I think it was one of the Call of Duties where they were developing this thing that would track what matched you with things like it was
a patent.
Psychological manipulation where they would
it was a patent.
Stuff that you didn't have access in front of you.
Yeah, it was a patent for Activision. Yeah.
Okay. that as long as they're not doing the same kind of thing where like they force you to play next to people who all have shit that always looks better than yours, as long as it's just true RNG, I don't give a shit. I really don't. And I also didn't know that they weren't doing I like this is really strange to me that they're not doing competitive.
Yeah,
Anywhere in the game.
as far as I understand, it's entirely like a cooperative PvE experience as of right now. They might have plans for PvP in the future, but from what I understand, that it's not anywhere near what the launch game will be. So
I think we should do it like Warframe and do everything a la carte. I think that's fucking beautiful, and I still say that's the best system.
And yeah, I've heard things floating around because they're gonna introduce more javelins, and they'll be either grindable, like you can grind them out, or you can straight buy them. I heard something along those lines for like new armors and stuff like that have different ability sets. And I don't know.
The only other request I have is don't clutter my screen like it's a cell phone game. Like, do not like make it so that I constantly have to look at your ads. Like, if I want to buy something, there's the shop page. I can go to the shop page. I can tab over or shoulder button over, or I can go and talk to the chunky guy with the colic in his hair and then buy fucking parts for the real world money. Whatever. You know, that's fine.
Yeah, it's all again, there's a lot of it about the game that is up in the air, and
the game's extremely buggy and it's very, very unfinished, and I sincerely have no faith that is just that's a build from 6 months ago. It doesn't make any sense why they would put that up instead of something that's less buggy and a better product for you to test.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know.
It feels like the 76 beginning.
We really don't know when it comes to development cycles, especially with EA being such a fucking awful company. I don't know how much is being rushed out here. So it is possible it could be a 6-month beta, but like, again, EA is not smart when it comes to these type of things, because we have a public demo that's happening soon. And this is, it's not a beta or an alpha. The idea of this is to sell people on the game. Why would you have a version of the game that is less polished than something that you take the time, get more polished, so you actually sell people on the game instead of everyone bashing your game for having bugs in a demo or whatever? And again, hate EA, don't hate EA, whatever is your preconceived notion of this game, whether you've heard from other people that it sucks that played it, or stuff like that. Again, it's a lot of it is up in the air, and people have only had maybe 5 levels of the game to see what it's like. So I don't know how the fuck all these people are making these end game videos and stuff, because no one's really truly gotten a taste of it.
End game videos?
Well, yeah, people talking like, "Ooh, what's end game like?" or stuff like that, and a lot of it is just, again, clickbait. And also speculation. Like, this is kind of an idea from what developers have said, what it might be like. And again, we don't know, but again, we don't know. We don't know. I just know that I played it for a bit and it was fun the time that I had in it. So I don't know. I like flying around. I think it's pretty cool. You feel like fucking Iron Man. That's for damn sure. I felt like Iron Man, except I was an elemental Iron Man throwing out lightning bolts and shit. So let's move on, though. We've talked about that enough. That was the intro. Hey, guys. Welcome to the podcast. We got housekeeping real quick. We do streaming on Twitch. I know I've been streaming Resident Evil 2 on hardcore mode on Twitch, which has been an experience. It's been fun, but it's been an experience, and a lot of rage and other induced emotions that was just... It's been an experience, let's say the least. We also have a Discord. Or the Twitch stream is twitch.tv/ThoughtPatrol. If you want to check that out, check out the VODs we have up, which are pre-recorded, or the recorded live streams from prior. Or when we go live, if you want to keep up with that, you can follow our Twitter at ThoughtPatrolPD, Facebook, Thought Patrol Podcast, or Discord. All these ways of connecting with us will be below. And I drop the announcement when we do go live there. Sometimes I also allude to it a little bit earlier if I know I'll have the time and what time frame it will be. Also, if you have something that you want to talk about, if you absolutely hate EA, think Anthem's a piece of shit, let us know. Feel free while you're doing that to subscribe. Also, you can do that on your podcasting service that you're tuning in on. So you can get the podcast every week on Tuesday when it comes out. Finally, we have we have a sister Facebook page as well, The Streaming Geek, where there's reviews that go up for media from video games to movies to anime and things of that like. And finally, iTunes reviews. You want to help us out? One more time?
It's all streaming stuff. It's not video games. It's just anything you can stream that would be nerdy. So science, sci-fi, fantasy, anime, comic book, etc. Anything that they put on Netflix. Because, dude, Netflix and Hulu and all those platforms, they're filled with garbage. So, like, I got sick of all the crap that's constantly running across stuff. And that's kind of where that came from, was like, all right, well, anytime I watch something, or, anybody from, our group watches something and we kind of figure out what it is, we just kind of share that with other people in a conversational format, which usually ends up me being typing something that involves a lot of curse words and calling somebody a cunt. But that's the way I review things. So there you go.
Typical affair.
I'm like the Gordon Ramsay of movie critics.
Nice. I like it. So yeah, that's that. Again, all those methods of connecting us will be below in the description. Check those out. So let's move forward. We have a mailbag from our boy Sam. He writes in with as always, keeping up them questions. I applaud him for the amount of questions he sent. Well, some of them, sometimes they repeat, but he does a good job of, what's the word I'm trying to say here? Kind of still keeping shit fresh. Yeah, he's still a dumb jock.
I'm curious what his next character is going to be.
Yeah, dude. Can I get a slutty cougar as the next character?
Slutty cougar.
Yeah, I'll take it. So like trying to get in our pants while also talking about like the Nixon campaign. Oh, well, yeah. All right, so
the Nixon campaign.
Yeah.
Pushing cougar. That's a whole other cat. That's
whatever.
Jesus,
I thought of an older president. I tried to make it on the fly. It was not pre-planned, and that's what I went with. So take it how you take it. All right. Hey, nerds. It's weird to think that we're in 2020, practically. It's 2019. And that's crazy. Like, if you think, like, something that came out in 2002 came out over 15 years ago. Or 15 years ago. That's crazy. Yeah. Where the fuck was I? Okay. Hey, nerds. I've been listening to gaming music lately. That's not something a jock would say, but okay. And I have to say, it's good. I'm not going to admit at the bros at the gym. Okay, I'll take it. He got back into character. I'll tell it to people I don't care for. Anyway, here's my
bros at the gym.
Hell yeah! After you get done sucking each other's dicks, right, in the locker room, spraying Axe all over the place. Anyway, here's my question: what, in your opinion, and what objectively is the best battle music? No boss fights. That's another question for another time. Can't wait to hear Shawn's drawn-out, rambling answer and Kyle's clear, concise, to-the-point response. Okay. Keep up the good work, nerds. You're starting to grow on me. Not. Go back to the gym and suck on my bro's dick.
Ball, I guess you got there.
Yeah, dude, I added that in there. All right. It's weird. I can't really say what is objectively, like, the best music, because I think a lot of music is subjective. But I think y'all...
Are you asking for, like, the best soundtrack? I don't understand. What
best battle music. So I'm assuming, like, some I mean, we could turn into, like, a fight.
One-Winged Angel. Done.
Okay. I was going to say, like, a fight. I'm assuming he means, like, for games. Like, video game music. So I'm thinking, like, a fight that impacted us because of the music and then what game it was. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into a boss fight, but something where that fight, one of the major things that stuck out to you was the music. And then the game, why it stuck out to you, and then you could explain the fight, I guess. But I don't know about objectively best battle music because, again, I think someone's opinion in music is subjective. Like, I don't like country, but if someone jamming out, I was gonna say someone jamming out to a country battle song.
Ride to Hell or Ride that? Do you remember that fucking buggy ass biker game that was so shitty that it was fantastic?
It was on the original Xbox or the 360. But
I think 360.
I think it might have been the 360. I think it was like a 360 launch title.
I think that one might have had country music in it.
Oh, is it Ride to Hell? Ride?
It was like, I think it was Ride Like Hell or Ride to Hell.
Ride to Hell, like, Retribution.
That's it. Yeah, that one.
Holy
that one
fuck!
Is an amazing game. That's an underrated game of the decade.
360. It's got 16% on Metacritic.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think that might have had country music in it. But all jokes aside, like, there are 3 series that I think are legendary for how excellent the music is and how well it works. And I'd probably stick with any one of those.
So pick one. Pick one of the fights that had a song that impacted you, and you could explain the fight if you want.
I don't really need to. Everybody knows the fight. It's One Winged Angel. It's Sephiroth.
Okay. But I don't think everyone knows the fight, but...
Well, if you don't, you're not human.
Okay. Well, I'll take it.
So the final battle in Final Fantasy VII. And when you go into this fucking crater, and there's this guy who had his lower half essentially just ripped off. And he's got one wing sticking out, and he's like half a corpse, and he's crazy alien dude man, and you fight him, and this song gets ripped out of like the most epic feeling. I don't know, man. I've never played anything where you walked into a room and the song kicks off and you feel like something's at stake. Like you are obviously at the epitome of a climax. Like you really felt that moment. You felt that mood and you cared about what was happening. And considering you're playing a turn-based RPG at that point, to sit there and feel like there's pressure, and I don't know, it really captured the feeling that you want to have when you're fighting the final boss. Like you felt like you were fighting for the fate of the world, for the fate of your friends. They really did a good job of capturing all that emotion and that intensity, and rolling it up into one, like, just overly, just very powerful song. And to the point where, like, that One Winged Angel is a song that is extremely widely known in the gaming community. It's very, very iconic because of that moment and what people felt when they were playing it, and just how perfect it was for the scene. Like, it's legendary. It's right up there with the Mega Man 2 soundtrack, or what the fuck, I can't even, oh listen, I lost it, that song that was playing when Obi-Wan was fighting Darth Maul.
Duel of the Sabers?
Duel of the Fate. That's it.
Duel of the Fate. That was fucking close enough.
Yeah, Duel, like it is Duel of the Fates level epic. It is. Is
that the one that goes level. Like like that one? Okay. I love that song. It's fucking awesome.
Everyone loves it. That song, I think that song has almost, if not definitely, eclipsed the Star Wars theme song and the Imperial March. As it's at least one of the 3 most iconic Star Wars songs. Like, bitch about the Lucas prequel trilogy all you want to, but it gave us one of the best, if not the best, Star Wars, orchestral piece. So, like, or like that whole soundtrack, that whole score was just fucking BA.
Yeah, bro.
But yeah, if I had to pick one, I would go with the with One Winged Angel, and I'd probably give like a special honors consideration to the fight with Dracula at the end of Symphony of the Night. That one was really good. And had another one, but it slipped my mind. But yeah, so your turn.
Okay. Well, I have two that have impacted me pretty heavily. One you could most likely guess, and that's going to be my actual pick, and then the other one will be the runner up because I think they're both phenomenal. But I think every song on the Nier soundtrack, again, I'm a Nier apologist at this point, but every song on the Nier soundtrack.
What specific song?
I would go with it's called A Beautiful Song, and it's the fight when you fight oh fuck, what's her name? Simone? Oh my god, what's her name? Okay, wait.
Are we both just gonna forget random shit?
Well, I could cheat.
Now is that a pattern?
I could cheat. I'm trying to think of what her name is. I just know it is Simone. Ha! Fuck yeah, I was right. The basically the opera. It's the opera boss battle that you get after you get a ways into the amusement park. The final boss of the amusement park. It also runner up the amusement park song leading up to A Beautiful Song and the opera boss battle with Simone. Phenomenal, fucking amazing music. And that's all the work of Keiichi Okabe, who does, again, fantastic fucking soundtracks. He does a lot of the Drakengard stuff. He did all of the Nier, or he didn't do all, but he did most of the Nier Automata soundtrack. He did a shitload of music on that soundtrack, and they all are like unique in a fresh way where it's just something you have not heard before entirely. Now, I'm sure, again, no art is made in a vacuum. I'm sure there's inspirations from somewhere. And some of the songs you could actually one song actually kind of gave me a Ghost in the Shell vibe, the Ghost in the Shell theme, the way that they had the chanting going with like the music. But again, that entire soundtrack is fucking phenomenal. So much good music there. But I would have to say one that deeply impacted me, and was actually the reason I bought the game in the first place, seeing it at the E3 trailer, was A Beautiful Song. When you fight Simone, the opera boss battle. That boss battle is fantastic. The whole battle, also the boss's attacks actually came out to the rhythm of the song. So there was a rhythm, almost as if you were dancing with this like kind of ballerina looking esque opera boss, as you were weaving in and out of her attacks. Just a fantastically designed fight. Even to the lead up on it, getting on the roller coaster and dropping down into the area to fight her, and realizing that she's utilizing broken androids and she killed off a lot of your friends and previous iterations and stuff like that. And just everything that led up to that fight with the music and the fight itself, and the multiple phases, and learning about the hacking for the first time, and it going into the hacking minigame where now you have an 8-bit rendition of the same exact song weaving in and out of the fight. It's just so fucking well done. Such a cool fight. And again, it was the reason I bought the game in the first place. Seeing that E3 trailer, it had stunned me from that fight, and I loved that fight to death. And it was one of the major reasons that game was so impactful to me, is the soundtrack and the design and the intentionality in a lot of the design of the game is really cool. Ooh, excuse me. But enough absolutely filleting the cock of Nier Automata, because I will do it all day. My runner-up, and a lot of you I'm sure will agree with this, is the Halo soundtrack with Martin O'Donnell. Phenomenal stuff. Even some of the later games, say what you will about the later Halo games, they still had a lot of very good tracks. And I think like the original like Halo 2 with the guitar, the Halo 2 soundtrack with the guitar, I don't know what it's called. I'd have to find it, but like the Halo theme that was on the guitar, Martin O'Donnell, for Halo 2, that is something that has stuck in so many people's minds, where you can play it any part of that song, and a lot of people will be like, that's Halo. I fucking love that. That's Halo. That's Halo 2, or that's part of the Halo series, and that soundtrack. But I would say the original Halo 2 OST with the guitar is, again, that just such an impactful song, and it works so well, and it's just so well done, and it's awesome, and it bleeds badassery, and it plays it some pretty good points. I know like the Halo theme in general plays at some cool points throughout the games. From like the Warthog runs, I know a lot of the Warthog runs because you get Warthog runs in a few points of Halo throughout the franchise, and a lot of the Warthog runs you get a rendition of that theme, which is really cool. But again, just super awesome soundtrack. I loved it to death. But those are my two. Nier being above Halo, just barely, because I think it's so cool and so unique. Where Halo is just like really well done, epic music. I think that Nier kind of has a little bit of a step above because it does have that unique feel to it, and I think that's cool.
I think Halo is more iconic than something, at least to me, Halo always felt more like just a really good, iconic song than it was something that juiced you up and made you feel epic. I would go I agree with you much more on the Nier. I mean, it's your opinion, and I love definitely. Halo, but I think Halo is iconic, but I think it's iconic because it was just really good, music that had a lot of character to it that really did the game well. But I don't know. I never had a Halo song kick off and be like, oh, fuck yeah, now I really feel like I'm there. It wasn't like that. I never added to immersion. You know what?
Blow Me Away by Breaking Benjamin, Halo 2 soundtrack. That was where I was at. It was me in middle school. I was about to sing, but I stopped myself because I realized, whoa, that's a really fucking bad idea. So we pushed it. I already humiliated myself with my rendition of Duel of the Fates. What were you gonna say?
Breaking Benjamin was on the Halo soundtrack.
Yeah, dude. They made a song called Blow Me Away for Halo 2. And it was made for the Halo soundtrack. Deadass. It was on there. And that's how I found Breaking Benjamin, actually. Hearing that song in Halo 2. I don't remember where it plays. I think it plays where he's first... Where I think it's later on where he takes the bomb that the Covenant left on the ship, and he like pushes it out into space and like takes it to one of the Covenant ships and blows it up. I think that's when it plays, but it is in there. It's in there for damn sure. It's awesome. It's fucking badass. Okay. Thanks for the question, Sam. You guys tuning in, let us know what's your favorite video game battle music. Maybe some soundtracks that stick out to you, something that resonated with you. We'd love to hear from you guys. Let's move on. Box office tops. Some movies maybe came out. I think a few did. Nothing, again, January. Nothing insane. Glass is still sitting at number 1.
Not even going to ask me this time, huh?
No, I'm not. Because you never know the answer, Shawn. You need to do your homework.
Actually, I knew the answers this time.
Well, you didn't every other time I asked. So I skipped you. How's it make you feel? You want to talk about it?
And then we got the upside, Aquaman, The Kid Who Would Be King, and Spider-Man. A few down, you still have Broly and Mary Poppins and Bumblebee. Fuck off!
Nice. Last made 19 million, Upside made 12 million, Aquaman made 7 million, Kid Who Would Be King, which is new, made 7 million. Spider-Man still holding on. Fucking adore that movie, 6 million. Sitting at worldwide? 338 million? That's a shame. Deserves more. Green Book, 5 million. Why is Green Book? Oh, okay. I remember that was older. They brought it back into theaters. You think it's for the Oscars? Is it a nominee?
It's not that old.
It's 11 weeks old. I think it might be for the Oscars. Yeah, because Bohemian Rhapsody got some more too, and I know that's one of the nominees. Spider-Man's a nominee. It might be for the Oscars. Who gives a fuck about a circle jerk?
Do you believe that fucking Oscars should be a popularity contest or a quality contest? Because fucking Black Panther got nominated just because people wanted it to be in the Oscars, even though a movie like that never once deserved an Oscar.
Well, didn't they have a point where they added more awards, right? Because it used to be more of like a highbrow kind of thing, right? Like these are like movies that are more for like an artistic impact than just like this movie was popular with people. And then they added more like, and now we have Black Panther in there. I don't think Black Panther will win.
Black Panther's in line for Best Picture.
Yeah, no, I don't think it will win. I think it's a lot of it's like a lot of it's, I think, it was almost like a thing where it's like, let's try and be almost like relevant, because if Black Panther's up for nomination, then you have a possibility of people actually tuning into the Oscars and giving a fuck, because there's a chance, quote unquote chance, that Black Panther might actually win Best Picture. So you have more people tuning in, watching the commercials, and TV's not dead. They've taken the one leg that's been in the grave for the past 5 years and kind of dragged it out a little bit, and they're holding it up before it falls back in there, because TV is I think it's on its way out. I think we're moving more to like the streaming kind of thing, and we'll see what happens with that. But I think it's a relevancy thing. Like, oh, hey, this is a super fucking popular. It might not be a very good movie per se, or a very highbrow artistic impact kind of movie, but it was a movie that people wanted. Maybe we'll get some more views this year than we did last year. I think that's kind of what it is.
I think it's a popularity contest, but I think they're genuinely trying to get it. I mean, I guess maybe, but that's a stretch.
I don't know, because I don't think Black Panther is this artistic like thing that will impact generations to come kind of thing. It's just was.
No, I liked the movie. It was a fun movie, but it wasn't even Marvel's best movie. It was just a fun movie.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of like a thing.
Nice seeing a cast, play out like that. I don't like the fact that they tried to jam SJW messages into it when it wasn't necessary at all. But that's the SJW way. So hey,
yeah.
But I think there have been much better Marvel movies than that. So I don't know. I have no fucking idea what they were thinking when they thought to do that. But I think it's fucking stupid.
I kind of do too. I mean, I've never seen the Oscars as like, oh, these were like the most watched movies of the year, the most popular movies of the year. It was always something like, it's almost like you'd see movies on the Oscars that you hadn't seen yet, and you see them getting like this high critical praise, and you're like, oh, that's something that I missed, because we got 100 superhero movies every year, and not every moviegoer just completely like goes ham on film. So this is kind of like, oh, these are like the highbrow, like these are movies that will almost like leave an impact kind of thing, stuff that you'd look back on kind of thing. And it's like, now I have a few more movies I could watch that are supposedly really good for that idea, or for the medium of film or cinematography or something like that. And I never saw them once as like, oh, Black Panther had half the country talking about it and stuff like that. Let's skip that in there. But I think it might be for a relevancy, maybe not necessarily to garner more clicks.
Kind of uncovered the fact that the Oscars is really something that they campaign for. Like they do whisper campaigns, and they take the judges out for lunch and dinner and try and get these movies to get in there, because they get a shitload of money from investors if the studio is pumping out Oscar movies. It's just it's like this ongoing aggressive promotion campaign.
Yeah. So I would agree. All right. So that was that. That's box office tops. Let us know what you guys think. What do you think is going to win Best Picture? If it's Black Panther, don't even at me. No, I'm just playing. Let us know what you think. We're going to move forward. We have a few news articles to talk about before we get into our main topic. And some interesting things. Now, this is more of a meme, and I thought it was very interesting because it came completely out of left field, like 100% out of left field. I was so surprised seeing this, and it just made me giggle. So apparently, we had a surprise title had beat out Fortnite as Twitter's most talked about game in 2018, right? Fortnite was fucking gigantic this 2018. It blew up, was making billions of dollars. Epic was just wadding in all of the mother's credit card numbers in order for V-Bucks and shit like that. It was absurd. But there was a game that managed to beat it in mentions on Twitter. So it had been tweeted about more than Fortnite. And that game was Fate Grand Order, an anime mobile game. And I was very surprised. So let me go into the article just a little bit. So Twitter did recently announce the top tweeted games in 2018, and surprisingly, it was not Fortnite. Despite the game's popularity, Fortnite came in second behind Fate Grand Order. Twitter had detailed the top gaming topics for the last year. Outside of Fate Grand Order and Fortnite, we'll talk about them a bit. Excuse me. It also says that Twitter had notion to take the data with a grain of salt, saying that the suggested game tweets ranked by tags such as @Fortnite game instead of Fortnite. So that could mean that the data would be slightly skewed because they were just using a single tag instead of like hashtag Fortnite, stuff like that. So it's possible that it can be higher, but I want to relish in this moment because the power of anime is growing. We're getting stronger, guys. Weebs rise up. But again, the most tweeted games in 2018. At number 1, we have Fate Grand Order at the FGO Project. Number 2, we have Fortnite at Fortnite Game. Number 3, we have Monster Strike at Monster Strike Official. Number 4, we have Splatoon at Splatoon JP. Number 5, we have PUBG. 6, Grand Blue Fantasy. 7, Ensemble Stars. 8, Super Smash Bros. 9, Overwatch. And 10, Final Fantasy. So even in this list of top 10, like 4 of these are weeb things. But again, another thing that might skew the numbers is the top countries that had tweeted about gaming in 2018. Number 1 is Japan. So I think that's our main culprit here, with number 2 being the US, number 3 being the United Kingdom, and number 4 being France. So number 5 being Korea. So interesting. It's literally a anime collectathon game where you collect cards and their characters from the Fate universe, which has been rapidly expanding over the past few years with Fate Grand Order and these other games that expand upon the lore, add new areas here or there, and make it more, not more concise, but more of a kind of a grandiose kind of thing. It's very interesting. It's moved on from a few stories with a few characters to like these gigantic, like catastrophic events and stuff like that. It's really cool. So I just thought that was interesting. And yeah, I mean, I've played the game. I got a new phone. I lost all of my progress in it, and I have not touched it since. So I was kind of salty with that. But I should have done it where there's a method you can do to actually keep your information, and I didn't manage to do that. But it was all right. I enjoyed it. I love the Fate. I love the idea of Fate, like collecting heroes of past, and whether they be real or legend, and leveling them up, and half them are females with big boobs, and I'm like, hey, I like it. It's pretty good. So I just thought that was interesting that was more popular than Fortnite. Again, Fortnite was most likely more popular because they were doing @Fortnite game and not just Fortnite. So it's possible. But hey, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take my victories where I can. But that was just a silly thing I thought was interesting. We have 2 more things that are kind of a bit more I'd say this is a little bit more reflective of the environment that we're in, which is interesting. It's surrounding Assassin's Creed Odyssey. They recently released a controversial DLC. Some people had some issues with. There was a big backlash from the Shadow Heritage episode of the Odyssey DLC, where you were forced. Your character was forced, not you technically, but Shawn, in this game you can be a male or a female, correct? They're twins. Your character was forced into a heterosexual relationship for lore because you have a child. Yeah. So those who had spent 2 hours playing Cassandra or Alexios, they basically they felt like it's okay. So take this what you will, and this really comes down from your view on this kind of thing. But there was a bit of an uprise from the LGBTQ community that they were being almost as if the plot development felt forced because you were being put in a heterosexual relationship to have a child. Now, One
It's
thing
a fucking story.
and another interesting thing that baffles me is, although I'm sure it existed in some degree back then, this is ancient Greece. There wasn't really adoption agencies. If they wanted you to have a child, you had to fuck the opposite gender to bear that child. There is no artificial insemination. This is ancient Greece. If you were gay,
It's
you
a
were.
fucking story. You can't. Are you good? Oh my god.
Let me finish. Let me finish before we talk about it. The
That's
backlash.
insulting.
The backlash.
Fuck off. They can fuck right off. All of them can fuck right off. If you can read a story, you read a fucking story and pitch a fit. You play a game with a story and you get upset, Jesus Christ, because they had sex and had a kid. My God, the world's gonna end. Where the fuck did you come from?
All right.
Jesus. Fucking, that's ridiculous. That's not insulting. That's not against LGBT. That's not against anything. It's part of the fucking story.
All right.
Oh my God.
I'm going to read the rest of this article word for word so we get a full understanding of what's going on, or the part that I was on. But this is off of GameSpot, just so I could add. Steve Watts at GameSpot talking about it. Okay, so at the end of the Shadow Heritage episode, your character has a child from a heterosexual relationship. Those who had spent 2 hours playing as Cassandra or Alexios and as LGBTQ, I guess, or simply not interested, or simply not interested in relationships at all, felt forced into a plot development. The backlash was enough. Listen, the backlash. Jesus, listen, the backlash.
Plot development. How dare you evolve the plot or write something I didn't expect coming?
The backlash was enough to prompt an apology from Ubisoft, and now the company is taking it a step further. In a production update, the studio said that it will alter a cutscene and dialogue choices for the second episode, and will also change the name of the associated trophy/achievement. All this will be coming in an upcoming patch, and Ubisoft is looking into the next episode called Bloodline to make sure it doesn't create the same issue. The Bloodline aspect was the given reason for the controversial ending in the first place, as creative director Jonathan Dumont said that the idea was to show how, quote, your character's bloodline has a lasting impact on the assassins. At the same time, he acknowledged the problem. Quote, we want to extend an apology to players disappointed by a relationship your character partakes in. It almost sounds like he's sad saying this. He said, Alexio slash...
I can't believe they kowtowed to that shit in the first place.
Alexio slash...
self-respecting LGBTQ XYZ member is going to get pissed off because a story happens to tell a hetero element, especially considering these settings. This is insane.
Let me finish here. Let me finish.
I don't even want to be a part of this fucking world anymore. I'm done. I'm gonna go kill myself. It's not worth living anymore. These fucktards are screwing it all up.
Wow. Alexios slash Cassandra realizing their own mortality and the sacrifice Leonidas. Oh, this might be kind of spoiler. I don't give a fuck. Leonidas and Marine made before to keep their legacy alive felt the desire and duty to preserve their important lineage. Our goal was to let players choose between a utilitarian view of ensuring your bloodline lived on or forming a romantic relationship. We attempted to distinguish between the two, but could have done this more carefully as we were walking an airline between roleplay choices and story, and the clarity and motivation for this decision was poorly executed. End quote. The LGBTQ organization GLAAD, G-L-A-A-D, celebrated the move in a tweet, saying it is pleased with Ubisoft's decision that the change is, quote, an important first step toward mitigating the damage done by the game's latest DLC.
Oh, fuck yourself.
So this is something we've talked about before here. When we talked about a little bit, we nodded to it when we talked about censorship a while ago, in the regards of forcing a creative an artist or someone, a creative director, someone to change their story to fit your worldview, right? So, and that's exactly what's happening here. We have received backlash enough for Ubisoft to actually apologize publicly about this, because a character that you could pick the race of had been forced into a plot development in order to progress the assassin lineage, right? It's just like, at what point is it too far? Like, I think that this is going into realms where just let a person make a world, a story. Why does I can understand if you're LGBTQ, that's fine. That's fine. You have your sexual orientation, that's okay. But there's been a huge push of it being it's not a choice and all that, and not to force straightness onto LGBTQ communities. And I'm not speaking for LGBTQ. Oh my God, that's such a long fucking word. As a whole, there's obviously all things that have come just from understanding some of the extremists of the movement and stuff like that. But the idea is not to force heterosexuality onto an LGBTQ member, because it's not something they have a choice in. So why are we getting an LGBTQ outlash or backlash or whatever, forcing characters that are canonically apparently heterosexual into options where they are no longer heterosexual? Why are we forcing it in that realm? Now, I know it's a video game, but like, this is stuff that can get into we can see elements of like dystopian kind of shit here, where it's almost like, I don't like what you made, so change it. And because of branding and companies trying to keep fans as happy as possible, they're like, yeah, let's change it. It's not that important. I didn't work 40 hours to write this story and make it make sense within this universe. Yeah, no, I'll just fucking flip a switch. They can be gay now. I don't know how the hell they're going to have a child, because this is ancient Greece. So their lineage is fucked. But hey, we'll allow it. Whatever. And the interesting thing is, when has Assassin's Creed Odyssey ever been about the romance? Why is that? It's never been about the romance. It has never. There's never been. If it was like Mass Effect, where there is a huge emphasis on being in romantic relationships, that's understandable. Give people an option to roleplay that way. But in this degree, even in this article, it states that the romance options were criticized as shallow. This is Assassin's Creed. We're not playing Sims. We're not playing a virtual novel where you fuck a waifu. We're playing a game about assassins, badass members of society that took down government oppression, shit like that. And it baffles me that this is something that had to be publicly apologized about, had to be patched in, and that it wasn't just something like, hey, this is our vision for the story. This is the way it's going to go. I apologize, but this is what we envisioned for Assassin's Creed. This makes sense in the lore. We can't provide LGBTQ options. It just would not fit in the world. And now they're patching in options to allow that type of role play in a game about killing and being an assassin that isn't heavily romance. I don't know. It just seems dumb. And it seems like pandering. It seems like as much as you may fix your relationship with the LGBTQ community, I don't necessarily see this going well with people that may not necessarily fans, but don't really care about it as a whole and don't want to be involved. And now they're having this being patched in. It just feels like a cop-out. That's all it does. It feels like a cop-out. And it makes you feel like if you don't have enough respect in your story to leave it as you originally envisioned it, instead of changing it on the moment that someone pops up and has some kind of issue with it, then you lose respect as a developer, I think. And I don't know. It's sad to think about that these people can't just create art or create mediums, create stories without having to fear about this kind of stuff, to the point where the company issued a public fucking apology. That's baffling. I don't know. What do you think, Shawn?
Where it is true, we do. If there is a game that gives you the choice of creating a character and creating their personality and creating what direction they go, like Skyrim or what was that one that Molyneux made?
Fable.
Or if they did that, if they incorporate, because Assassin's Creed has drama. Like Assassin's Creed 2, he watched his family get murdered. You know, like all he had left was his mother, and she was kind of bananas. You know, you had to do that secret things to get her to fucking talk, get all the feathers or whatnot.
Yeah.
So if they were going to incorporate that, fine. And if you were going to incorporate player agency and let them choose choices, then it's fair to give some options for people who don't necessarily make, you know, the standard black and white choices all the time. And I get that. And that's been happening more and more. And that's great. If you want to play straight, you can play straight. If you want to play gay, you can play gay. If you want to play a girl, you can play it from her perspective. You want to play a man, you can play it from a man's perspective. If they're doing that, then fine. And if they create one of those games, but they don't put, but they obviously omit an audience they could have written in, then that is a flaw that you could talk about. I don't necessarily think the studio needs to apologize to you because they didn't cater to you, but it is something that's worthy of critiquing. You know, you could sit there and just in the same way that if a film comes out and they've got the funny character, but it's the trope character, like the hooker with a heart of gold, or the magical black boy, or, you know, like the Bagger Vance thing, or the if it's, or the funny drag queen, it's always a funny drag queen, or always a funny gay guy. They're always the comic relief or whatever. Like, I get why you don't want to see that. And that is something that, where it's fine once in a blue moon, as long as that's not all that they are in film. And I'd see that carried over the same way when you play a game and an audience isn't included. That is something where you can go, okay, this was a good game, but it didn't have this. It needed to have that option. If it had had that, it would have been a better game. The same way you talk about those films. And there does need to be more representation organically implemented, not forced, organically implemented. But if somebody makes a game that doesn't cater to you or doesn't include you, that doesn't give you the right to jump pitchforks and light them on fire. It doesn't give you the right to try and get them fired or to try and get their project canned. What it gives you the right to do is get together with people in your community. And if you don't want, and agree to not get the game, you can do that. I think that's immature, but you can do that. If it's not directly insulting or doing something bad to you, to sit there and picket or write letters or get upset is not constructive. What you can do is you can communicate with the company. You can send them emails and go, hey, this was a good game, but we really would have liked to have seen this in there. And when you have more of that constructive stuff, when you have the geeks uniting and reaching out with a voice and saying, hey, we really would like to see more of this in games, you're going to see more of that come out, and it does. But screaming and forcing people to change what they've made or adjust their viewpoint is not the right way to go about it. That's my first thing. I think, and there's a fine line between the two, but the real gripe is that they wrote a story, you're playing through their story, the story exists for the fans, you're a fan, and then the moment one thing happens, it doesn't fit the narrative you had written in your head, then they have to issue an apology and patch it because they made a mistake. Was this game centered around relationship choices in the first place? Because as far as I understood it, you were dictating the story toward either romantic or utilitarian, but either way, it had to go this direction because the story centers around continuing your bloodline. So either you're gay and you have to have heterosexual sex just to have the child, and it's utilitarian, or B, you're heterosexual and you're in love with that person. Those are the two choices you have, because the ending always has to go in the same direction. And if the author felt that this was the best way to convey the story, you have every right to complain, but you do not have the right to force them to change and patch and then run around and change everything else that you disagree with, because there's a shitload of stuff that happens in games that I disagree with. I do not try and force them to change the game. I don't try and force the experience to be changed for others so they have to see things the way I see them. And I definitely do not ram my ideas and my opinions down every other throat. I don't. Here, it's our space. We talk about what our thoughts are. That's one thing. But if I hear somebody talking about something I disagree with, I don't run up and force my ideas down their throat. I'll have a discussion with them. I'll debate with them. We'll have a good talk. But I will never sit there and force someone to live by my worldview. And that is what they're doing with gaming. And it's horribly immature to expect the rest of the world to be how you want it to be, and if it isn't, that you have the right to force it to be what you want it to be. Everyone's an individual and everyone has changed. Do we need more positive representation? You always need more positive representation. We need more positive representation of gay and bi and transgender, black and Hispanic and Asian and fucking Mongolian and Russian and Martian. We need poor. Well, that's the. I mean, that sounds like I'm putting it down, but we do need more positive representation. But you know what other positive representation we need? We need representation where guys aren't douchebags. Yeah, we need representation where women are allowed to be weak, or allowed to want to smile, or allowed to wear makeup, or allowed to be whatever they want to be. We need representation where life is a varied and wonderful and colorful place filled with a shitload of different opinions and textures and ideas, and those ideas are allowed to coexist. I give up. This is the dumbest fucking thing I've heard in a while, and whoever it was that pitched a fit just because the character had to do something that was heterosexual within that time period can go sit on a bag of broken glass. I don't give a shit.
I wonder what the apology was.
It's over this.
Lead me to another. I don't know. I understand.
People are going to be getting pissed off because bicycles don't come with one seat for all genders.
Yeah, dude. I don't even have a seat. I just got like a rod that goes up my ass, but I'm okay with that one. So.
That is so unbelievably miserable.
My biggest thing is I don't like to take something that's been done and has a purpose within the world and change it again to fit your worldview. I'm all for raising awareness for future products to further represent anything you want. That's fine. Like you're saying, I understand that. But the moment something's set in stone and done, and someone has worked hard to create this the way it was so that it would fit, it would make sense, it'd be enjoyable in a certain context, you stepping up and having, again, we don't know how toxic and or not toxic the uprising or the backlash was. We just know it was a backlash. So it could have been a very nice method of saying, hey, can you kind of change this? But even then, I still do not think that just because it's not something that fits with your view in a game that's not primarily focused on romantic decisions. Mass Effect, I can understand if the next Mass Effect game they released didn't have any gay / lesbian options in it because previous ones have had it. That would make sense. Hey, you guys are regressing here. Where's the representation? Completely understandable, especially if the game's
all about making choice. Then that makes sense. Like, hey, you said we're going to be making choices, then you intentionally cut this audience out. That's bullshit. And I don't know. Maybe I misunderstood what the new Assassin's Creed was about, because I know they're fighting dragons and giant sea serpents and shit, and it's all weird now. But as far as I knew, it didn't give you tons of agency. It wasn't about creating any character you wanted with any personality and any persuasion and creating a avatar for you as a real person in a virtual world. As far as I knew, that wasn't a thing.
No,
and if that's not a thing, you've got no room to fucking bitch. You bought the game knowing what you were getting into and then decided to view it a different way, which it was never declared as. And then when it didn't fit the image that you crafted with nobody's regard, you just crafted it. And that's what you thought was going on. When the game went the direction it was always going to go, then all of a sudden you're insulted. Again, like it just, if the situation, and again, you can't really just say if the situation was reversed, because gay, lesbian, and transgender, and all the other fucking anagrams and acronyms and etc. They've always been a marginalized people, and I will never know 100% what that's like. I've only been marginalized in certain ways, and it's never been to the degree that they have. So I can't sit there and say that I understand their pain, but I do understand the concept. I do understand why it is that they've been upset for so long and why they do desire change, and all of that is completely valid. None of that is wrong, but forcing other people to change their art, like we said before, it's a very fine line to walk. And whereas you are always welcome to vote with your wallet, and you are always welcome to talk to your friends about your feelings and see if they want to band together and not support something because it doesn't fit the worldview that you all share, that is fine. That is within your right. But to walk up and force something to adapt to you is not the way to go about things. Like the positive movement where people want to have more, a lot of these cyberpunk games are being written, right?
Mhm.
Like the one that I bought and the two that you bought, that are kind of retro, old style. Like the cyberpunk genre is perfect for that in the first place, because in the future, like, just nobody gives a shit about gender preference or whether you were born with a dick or not. Like, none of that really matters. It's just everyone's so augmented and so far out in left space that there are a whole new series of problems. Like, they've gone way beyond like the trappings that we have, and they have a whole new set of shit. And so cyberpunk is a perfect place to show a world where nobody gives a fuck about that stuff. And it's always been that way. Like, cyberpunk has always been a perfect, platform to show a world where they're much more concerned with other things than that. And so you see it more frequently there. But if you, I don't get it. I just don't understand.
Okay.
The amount of hatred you have to refuse to accept just a story that's different than your own. And I mean, that's the way the heterosexuals were in previous generations, but that's not how things are so much now. And we played those two games, and I started the other one, and not once did we bat an eye that we were playing as characters that might have a different gender persuasion or get upset with the writer because they wrote a story that just so happened to have that gave us free choice, and then like halfway through the game we realized we just walked into a gay relationship character when we didn't know it from the beginning, or something along those lines. Like, that just wasn't something that would get us upset. And even if I was upset over it, I wouldn't write them and have them patch the game to give me a choice to
Not be gay.
connect the bartender character with the robot instead of the hacker.
Yeah, there's got to be like a certain respect for the amount of work that went into creating that story the way it is. And,
I like the story the way it
well, I mean,
was.
just in general, even with Assassin's Creed, like I think that person that wrote that and made that fit, they deserve the respect that it took to get that out there and take that time. And again, I understand wanting representation. We've said this multiple times throughout this conversation. Do not get us wrong. We are not against this.
No, we're for representation, 100%.
The idea is that not to step on other people in the process. And this action is stepping on, what if someone was okay with the story, and now that there's a canonically accepted version of it where and again, it was in much smaller margins, but in ancient Greece, older times, you didn't see it as often. And when you did see it, again, and more primitive people,
gay was like common everywhere in ancient Greece, dude. That wasn't even that was everywhere.
I don't remember.
Yeah, dude, totally.
Okay, well, whatever.
That was really common.
Okay, fine. I'm wrong there.
That's not the point.
Yeah,
that's not my point.
You
couldn't have kids if you were two gay guys or two gay women. And if I remember correctly, the gay sex was common. The gay relationships weren't. Like, they had bathhouses for that. You'd go and bang whoever you wanted to bang. But I think my thing is like, I've never been marginalized. So I don't know. I can't sit there and say that us playing those three games even if the situation was reversed, we might not feel the same. But and maybe we're blowing it out of proportion. Like maybe the apology and maybe the changes they made didn't change the integrity of the story whatsoever. They're just adding some stuff to include what the LBDBDs wanted. But if it's not there, it's not the end of the fucking world. And it's not always going to be there. And like it or not, y'all motherfuckers aren't the majority. In all film, in all comics, in all video games, as long as heterosexuality is the norm, and I don't like the word norm, but is the majority of the people out there, then the majority of the characters are likely to be the same. That doesn't mean that there shouldn't be representation. There should be representation, but you're not going to have a gay guy in every room. You're not going to have a gay girl on every single block in America. Like, it's just not going to be that way. You're going to have a block with 4 houses on it where maybe there's no gay people living there. That's just something that happens sometimes. Shock, gasp. And so the characters in a show or a game or a comic may not all be gay. There may be no gay ones in this particular issue. Jesus Christ, it's not the end of the fucking world. They'll be there. They're out there. You may have a comic book where it's 4 white dudes and no black or Hispanic or Chinese people show up. You may have another fucking cartoon, 22 minutes long, that's like 8 Chinese people, 1 white guy, or no white guys. Oh, gasp, shock. It happens to be taking place in an area where there's not a lot of white guys. That's just the way it fucking works. That's how stories work, because that's how real life works.
All right.
Jesus Christ. How the fuck do you guys live in your own planet?
Okay. Finally, this
Walk
is
into a mall, be like, oh, this mall's got to change. There's not enough gay people here. We got to tear it down because it's not filled with gay people.
Finally, again, we are very much outsiders looking in on this situation. I haven't fully experienced its travel, and if they fixed it, and if it's working in a way that doesn't jeopardize the integrity of the story, and everyone's happy, power to it. I'm glad it all worked out. But if this is a situation where, again, a story was completely changed around, because it's something that it's to the degree within this environment that I would not put it past what goes on. That's why it's dumb, but I'm not necessarily shocked. If it did jeopardize the integrity of the story, I'm not necessarily shocked, because I would not put it past the current environment we are in with media, the way everything goes around, the way companies deal with managing branding and making sure everyone's happy and stuff like that. I would not put it past this environment. That's why, again, it's just, if you do know how this actually played out and we are wrong in any way, let us know. I would love to hear someone else's side on this conversation. And if you did see it play out and you did understand it, let us know. We want to further this conversation to you guys. That's the biggest thing here. We can sit here and talk all day, but if what we said today either made you angry, made you happy, you understood it, you didn't understand it, let us know. Again, we want to make this an open conversation amongst everyone tuning in, so we can get an idea of these multiple perspectives. As Shawn said, it's never been part of a marginalized group. I'd love to hear someone's take on this, if they are gay, if they are part of the LGBTQ community. I think that I'm getting that right. I don't know. We'd love to hear from you guys. Keep that in mind. We are not trying to attack anyone.
I think the most frustrating point is I go out of my way. And again, this is an entirely personal reaction, but I go out of my way to not force other people to change their shit for me, and to try very diligently to be acceptant of things that are different. So, like, I play these games, like the 3 that we played, for instance.
Yeah,
and there are plenty more out there. And I found it enriching, and I liked the games, and I had no problem with it. And even if a huge majority of the content out there lent that way, I would still enjoy it. But I understand if it was like that. It's a lot like when I went to see Black Panther. I really enjoyed Black Panther. I really had a lot of fun watching it, but I never felt like I was a part of it. And it didn't dawn on me until I thought about it, and I was talking about it with a black friend of mine. He's like, all right, well, let me spin this around. I went and saw the Avengers, and the only black dude in Avengers was Nick Fury, who's not a main character.
What's his name? War Machine.
Right, but War Machine didn't do dick in the first Avengers movie.
Oh, the first
Right?
Avengers. Okay.
Yeah. So like, and he's like, but you have to think, and also keep in mind, man, War Machine's been a background character up until now.
Yeah.
He's been a support member. He's like, so imagine all of the superhero movies I've gone to, and he's like that slight feeling you had where like you weren't quite a part of the action. I feel that all the time, and I'm like, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense to me. And it wasn't something, it was something that I understood in concept or theory only up until I went and saw a movie that was like 99%. And I've seen movies that are 99% black before, but it just never brought it home in quite the same way as going to see Black Panther. So I get that, right? And I get the fact that you want something that speaks to you and you're tired of playing games that don't speak to you. And there's a difference between playing a game that's just generically, that just doesn't deal with it. Like, for instance, like 3/4 of the Zelda, the Legend of Zelda games don't have romance in them.
Mm-hmm.
There's only been a handful where they explicitly showed something between Link and the others, and Link doesn't talk, so it's more, you only see it from one angle. But still, like those kind of games you can play, and it's just not a factor. But you want to play games that do have that in there to some degree, so you can just feel normal, so you can feel a part of something because it reflects something that's the same in your life. I get that, right? I understand that completely, but I don't think it's right to force a change. It should be encouraged, or there are different ways to do things that don't involve stepping on art. And this could have played out, like you said, in a completely different manner, in which case I'm just blowing smoke and bluster and being an asshole. And that's fine. I'm an asshole. I already own that. But I see it happening way too much where not somebody who's a true activist and not somebody that truly cares about something, but when you see these raging SJW groups who just decide that the world has to change because they think differently, and then they force things to change, and that just is wrong on so many ethical levels. And if it was what it sounds like is another example of that, that's going about things the wrong way. That is not how you do positive change. You do not force the world. You make it want to. You show it that this is appropriate. You show it that you teach and you spread wisdom and you spread love, and you do not do that by screaming at people and using air horns in their ear and saying awful things about them. That's not how it works.
All right. We got another article, and we're going to talk about some RE2 before we wrap up this episode. This article has me personally both sad and ecstatic. So, recently, Nintendo had released a video on their YouTube channel talking about the development for Metroid Prime 4. So basically, the senior managing executive officer, Shinya Takahashi, came out and had admitted that the development of the game didn't really reach the standards that Nintendo was looking for. So the project has been scrapped entirely. But they are bringing Retro Studios, the team, I think they're Texas oriented. I Googled it earlier and I forgot. I think it's Texas.
The ones
Correct
that
me
were
if I'm
from the original Prime trilogy,
yes.
right?
The first 3 entries, the people that create them, they are coming back to work on the sequel. When Takahashi came out, he had said, although this was very regrettable, we must let you know that the current development progress has not reached standards. Nintendo always strives for the highest quality in our games and in our development phase. We challenge ourselves to confront whether the game is living up to that quality on a daily basis. From this perspective, we have determined that the current development status of Metroid Prime 4 is very challenged, and we had to make a difficult decision as a developmental team. We decided to re-examine the developmental structure and change it. So, yes, it has been scrapped, but the team that made the first 3 will be returning to work on the Faded sequel. And that has me so excited because 3 was my least favorite, but the first 2 games were practical masterpieces, and I fucking adored them, even on the shitty GameCube controller. So I cannot wait to see this in an environment where I do not have to use lock-on on every enemy, and they could work in challenge that way too. I'm super excited to see what comes out of this game, seeing
Believe it or not, it was worse on the Wii trilogy.
I
When
don't
they
even want to
re-released
think
trilogy.
about that. I don't even want to
Yeah,
think
like
about
the graphics were a little bit better, but it was so
Wiimote.
much harder to play
motion
because you were
controls.
forced to use the Wiimote. You couldn't use the classic controller.
God.
You had to use the Wiimote.
That sucks, bro.
Yeah,
One thing I would.
was really. I
Sorry.
still want it. I want to get it again because I bought it and then I tried to play it with the classic controller and it wouldn't recognize it, and it didn't make any sense because it's a perfect game for that. And I quit playing it, and then there was a rumor at the time that it was going to be released on the Wii U, and so I sold my Wii copy.
Oh,
and it's worth something now, and now I can't find the Wii copy again because I do want to play them again because I played Prime, and then I played Fusion, which I think that took place directly after Prime. Because she had you remember at the end of Fusion there was those weird that life form that lived in the ooze or whatever, and it brought Ridley back to life, sort of.
No,
I don't know.
It's been a very long time.
There was this substance in the planet that they were going to weaponize or some shit like that, and it was alive. It was intelligent, and so
that's how she gets her. Isn't that what her fusion suit is made out of? That weird shit.
Yeah. And so they what happened is her suit got coated in that shit, and then I think she took it off or was forced out of it, and then it grew a clone of her,
Dark Samus,
inside the suit, and she had to fight the substance.
Yeah.
They're like tiny creatures or something like that with a hive mind, and she had to fight that and basically build a new suit.
Yeah, because you lose all your weapons right off the bat.
Yeah, because it kept all the weapons.
Yeah.
And that happens after Prime, and then Prime 2 kicks off after Fusion. Fusion was the last one that I played. I
really want a remastered version on the Switch of these three games. I don't know if we'll ever see it, but I would love that, whether it comes from the launch of Prime 4 or if they put it in between to kind of appease people, especially after this news has been dropped. I would love to see that. I would adore playing through those games again, a little bit upscaled for the Switch, so I could just play on the TV and built around an actual controller instead of like locking on or motion control.
Chronicles. Don't you think? Like do a Chronicles release. Remember how they did that? They just did that re-release of Metroid 2 on DS or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was on. I really want to play that because Metroid 2 is fucking super fun. But I played it on Game Boy. Like, I think if they took the original series, Metroid 2, Super Metroid, the Metroid Primes, Fusion, and I don't remember I think there was like one other M, and I think there was something else, maybe one other. I don't remember if the 3DS Metroid game actually had a story. I know it was multiplayer. If they would release like a Chronicles thing, even if they charged extra for it, where you would get all these games and be able to play back through the Metroid story again, I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I would love to see it. It's
weird to have the story continuing and have this whole new audience not know what the history is. You know, give them a chance to see all the different ways that Metroid has been awesome, because Prime managed to somehow take that side-scrolling fun and translate it into 3D. So you still felt, and I don't know how to say this with it and have it still make sense. You still felt like you were playing the same game.
Yeah.
You never once felt like, oh, they had to change so much of it to make it right. Like, you always felt like you were playing the same game that Super Metroid was.
All right. I agree. I'm excited. I cannot wait. So let's move a little bit forward onto our main topic. We'll put some time into this. So Resident Evil 2 came out recently. I've put a lot of time into it, and Shawn has put some time into it as well. So we're going to talk about it a bit. I mean, the game has not changed at all, so I don't really feel there's a need to like tippy-toe around spoilers, because the story is exactly the same pretty much.
Yeah, they haven't changed the story.
And we would maybe throw out a few franchises or games that we would love to see get this treatment, a complete overhaul and a new engine in the same in the same like story, same environment, same game, just completely overhauled like this game has been. What titles we'd like to see get that. First, I'll have Shawn discuss because he's more of a veteran to Resident Evil than I am. This is actually my first time playing Resident Evil 2. So we'll have Shawn talk about it a bit, what he likes, maybe doesn't like. And then I'll start with what difficulty you're on too, because I'm playing on hardcore. And one thing
I wouldn't suggest anybody play it on anything except for hardcore, because that's how it is for you, Kyle. Right now is the same way the game was when it first launched.
Yeah, I don't.
It was that difficult.
One thing I don't understand with these types of games, playing them easier, is you're not playing a survival horror game. If you have 80 bullets when you walk into a room and there's zombies in there, you are not playing a survival horror game. You are playing an action game with zombies in it. There is no survival horror element in there. So I think it's completely detracting from what the game's trying to do if you are not constantly deciding on managing your resources, whether or not you want to remove this enemy, say if you have to backtrack here later because enemies you kill stay dead, managing heals, managing just going into new environments and not knowing what's going to be around the corner, and understanding that your life is very precious and will not last long if you get cornered, and taking those elements away and making it more of just like, oh, let's shoot zombies in the head, I always have a shitload of ammo kind of thing. I think that completely detracts from what Resident Evil originally tried to do with the survival horror genre and stuff like that. And I've watched people play on normal, and it sickens me how much ammo they have. And I don't know, I just not having those choices and not having to make those choices, I think ruins the experience, in my opinion. If it's your first time playing it and you're not about raging and you just want to get through it, you don't have time, there's Kingdom Hearts coming out, I can understand it then at that point. I mean, but like, I really recommend any of you guys who pick this game up and you're playing through it, play through on hardcore. It is such a better experience overall because there's so much more to pull from it. You're doing so much more with the game, and it lasts you longer because you die more often. So you'll get more you'll get more bang for your buck. So I highly recommend it because I've had a blast trying to solve the puzzle that is entering a room and managing my current supplies I may find, and the amount of enemies I have to go through. And doing that every time I go somewhere, it just makes this like chess game that you're constantly dealing with these different variables and trying just to survive. Oh, like the survival horror genre. Okay, yeah. So I recommend hardcore. If you're not playing on a hardcore, number one, you're a bitch. And number two, you're not getting the full experience. Shawn, what do you think about this game?
I like it. I mean, there's some things that I don't think they should have changed, but it's never so much that they lost what the game was. Like, they kept what Resident Evil is, and that was the most important thing to me. Like, the fixed camera angles were good because because they didn't allow you to peek around corners. So you didn't know what you were walking into until you actually walked in, into that camera range. And then you could see what was there. So you would hear something walking, you'd hear the wet zombie footstep, or the groan or whatever. So you knew there was something in there. You knew it was you could tell if there was a zombie, but if it was like a troll and I haven't seen well, that's the first game, for instance, but you didn't always know what was in there. And if it was a clicker, you'd hear that clacking noise that they make when they're walking around because they have the nails.
Mm-hmm.
You could hear something, but you didn't. Yeah, liquor. But you didn't know where it was. Or sometimes there was no noise, and you'd round the corner, and there's a zombie on the floor. So there's a lot more suspense before than there is now. That's one big trade-off. Is the suspense is much less than it used to be, because you can see by changing the camera. You have control over the camera now. So that's one thing that I think detracts a little bit. Now, I heard that there's a secret mode where you can turn fixed camera angles on, so I'm excited to find that. But even if there wasn't, I don't think it's the best choice, but I understand why they did it, and I stand by it. Like, it makes the rest of the game much smoother to play. Like nobody ever liked tank controls. Like I understand why they did it back then. First of all, when the first Resident Evil came out, there weren't dual sticks. You didn't have dual shocks and shit like that. But the tank controls also really pushed up your suspense factor, because you were never sure if, like, I mean, you're trying to maneuver around and through these environments, these fixed camera environments, and you weren't sure if you were going to get clipped or not, or if you were going to get hit or not. So it took a lot of practice to move through. But that's really something that's kind of gone the way of the dodo, and that's one of those gaming conventions that I'm glad has gone the way of the dodo. Like, we don't need it anymore. It's not necessary, and it doesn't make games better. So I'm glad that that's gone. And I will take the increase in smoothness of the game and ease in playing the game over what we lose with the camera angle, like with the fixed cameras. I still think the fixed cameras did add something to the game, and I'm a little sad to see it go, but it's not that big of a loss. The inventory thing, like, inventory has always been a priority in Resident Evil, and I don't have a problem with Resident Evil being action oriented. I don't have a problem with them putting a focus on action over suspense and over the survival. I'm fine with Resident Evil spin-offs being running guns or whatever you want to make them. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, it's not Resident Evil if it's not like the first few games. Like, that's not really something I believe to be accurate. I think you can do all kinds of different stories in this world, which is why I didn't have a problem with 6. I just thought that there were parts of 6 that were boring.
It was
specifically Chris's campaign. Like the
weird...
if the gunplay had been polished in Chris's campaign, if they were going to make it a running gun with survival horror elements, which is what they were going for, and then Leon's was supposed to be the true survival horror, and then the other guy, Wesker's son, was supposed to be more like Resident Evil Nemesis, where you were constantly on the run. Like, if they had successfully pulled that off, it would have been one thing. But in 6, the gunplay was just so wonky and not put together as well as it should have been that it detracted from the campaign a lot. But I thought the story in 6 was fine. I think people whining about 6 need to shut up. But,
one thing I really liked about those games, was the cooperative element in the sandbox that they had set you in to just kind of fuck around. And I think that did very well. It worked well with the game itself being action-oriented. What happened?
6 wasn't a sandbox. 6 was super scripted.
Well,
linear.
I mean, it was linear, but I mean more in regards to moving through the level and it being built around 2 people. That sandbox, not like the world being open world, but the idea of exploring the game with another person, accidentally being able to hit your friend with melee attacks, or if someone's being murdered and pushed into a blender or some shit, you can just sit there and watch it happen before you get the game over screen. But just like that fun that can be allowed, I think I don't necessarily think it's a good...
Man. It really is, because 5 and 6 were both decent games, and whereas 5 sold well, 6 sold fine, and it made money, but it just, people complained about it so much that the last Resident Evil game I saw that was co-op was Revelations 2. Revelations 1, I think, was only co-op online. Revelations 2 was couch co-op also. I don't think we're going to see that again. I don't know if that style of Resident Evil is going to come back. I really don't, because I think that what they've done with 2 proves the old school style still works, and what they did with 7 proves that they can do new things with Resident Evil, and some people, like, it'll still sell enough. Like, I, for one, think that Resident Evil should never, ever be first person unless it's a shooter, because I think that takes away from the very specific way that they do the suspense and the storytelling. Visually speaking, it doesn't feel like a Resident Evil game. I'm still going to get it one day and play it, but I don't like first person Resident Evil. I think part of Resident Evil is always seeing your character. It's supposed to be filmic, it's supposed to feel a bit like a movie. And when I watched you play 7 for a few hours, and I never felt like it. Always felt like you were playing through a really good indie horror game. It never once to me felt like Resident Evil until you would do a puzzle. And then when you did puzzles, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a Resident Evil thing. When you had to flip that block around to make the bird image to open the fucking door of the puzzles that are just ridiculous that anybody even thought to put them there, that's totally Resident Evil.
Okay.
But back to what I was thinking about 2. The reason why I say that is because 2 brings back all the old conventions and just polishes them that much more, makes them work, takes the old puzzles that were kind of stupid or just you really kind of fucked up the pacing, and changes. Like, the puzzles are not the same. Like, they're the same in spirit. Like, you still have the library puzzle, you still have the key puzzle, you still have a lot of the same puzzles in Word, but then when you go to do them, they've been completely retooled and changed around so that they just work better in the game and in working with it. It's just, everything's much more organic. It feels more natural. Again, I really don't like the inventory, man. I still don't understand. Every other game has a key item inventory and then a normal inventory, because it really detracts from the game, the amount of backtracking you have to do. It sucks. It's not a fun part. It doesn't add to the game. It's not something that while I'm playing, I don't even notice I'm doing it. Like, they give you so little space, because in the original game, I think there was 3 storage bags you could find that would give you an additional line of storage per bag.
They exist in the regular game, like regular hardcore. Those bags, you only get 1.
Yeah, I think you got 2 or 3 in the original game. And in this game, they still have the bags, which is fine. But they don't have a key items menu. And it doesn't, I think it's a real missed opportunity that they did not sit there and give you a key items menu so that you could sit there and hold as many of the keys and the parts you needed for the puzzle or whatnot as you needed. And then you still could carry around your weapons and ammo, because it does not add to the survival horror element to have to constantly backtrack to go and get the steering wheel you need to stick on the wall or the eyeball you have to put in the statue. Like, this is really stupid. And I feel like that's a huge missed opportunity, and it does not add to the game, because the ammo shortage and the way the enemies move and the AI is pretty sharp, especially with the Lickers and the Tyrant, which I don't remember what his name is in this game, but he's
Mr. X, I think, or some shit.
Mr. X, yeah. He's a model of the Tyrant. He's the second generation. The first one was unfinished.
I had the biggest problem with him because I didn't know that you can lose him, right? So I didn't know that if you were to run into a room and walk for a bit and get to an elevated position, he can lose you and go somewhere else. But he added such a fucking, and it reminded me a lot of Jack from Resident Evil 7, because he chased you all over the place too, for the most part. And as soon as Mr. X shows up, that's what he does. He chases your ass around, and you have to deal with him if there's zombies in a room. The thing with the inventory, again, I've never played the original. I played the remake of the first game, like the first Resident Evil, but I haven't really had too much experience within the earlier Resident Evil titles. But I think it might have been because I never had any ammo, but I didn't really have any issues with the key items at all. And I felt like the way that the map was designed, a lot of my backtracking was intentional anyway. Like, I had to be going that way anyway. So I said, a box, I'll just stop by, drop these off. But I like that there's just another layer of decision making added, kind of. It's like, I have ammo in this room. One thing that pissed me off that I think is dumb with the inventory is, I don't know if this is an issue with hardcore, but if you find ammo on the ground and you do not have a single slot of inventory space available, you cannot just pick up that ammo and load it into your gun. It will not let you whatsoever. You have to have a free spot available.
It's not in the thing first. Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to combine it.
That I think is dumb. But I think having the key items on you, I like that extra layer of decision making where it's like, okay, I'm kind of getting full. I only have a few more spots left. We need to kind of manage inventory, combine some herbs, do something there, or like I would understand if you couldn't like do a puzzle without having all the key items. But if you have one key item you find and the puzzle's there, you can slap it there and leave it there. And then you have one key item there. And if it requires a few, you can always come back and then you just combine them and put it and solve the puzzle. So I had a lot of times where I'd just be near the puzzle anyway. So I just slap that shit on there and then go wander off and not have to worry about having an extra spot. But I can understand wanting, because it existed before, so there wasn't necessarily a need to change it because that's how it was originally. But
they've changed a bunch of other stuff. I just feel like that would not have detracted from the strategy feeling that you're getting. I don't think it would have affected that. I think the game would have benefited from being a little bit more open to modern gaming conventions. Like they changed so many things. Like what was the problem with giving people the key items menu? Like that's been a thing.
I think it's just because I think it's mostly just a limitation of the engine, to be honest, because RE7 worked the same way. You had those slots available to you.
Same inventory because they're using the same engine.
Yeah, it's the same exact engine. So I think it's just that. I mean, I think they just didn't go through with it, and they kind of altered the game. Again, I don't know how the original played, but it just works. I think it works. I never had a point where I was like, God, this sucks. It just was something that I thought was there and I dealt with it. Again, not having played the original. But I can understand that point of view. It would have been nice to have a key item slot, but I don't necessarily think... I could understand the argument of it not necessarily adding anything from the original experience, but I don't think it detracted from anything, really. I just thought it was just a different way of managing... And I like the inventory management, and it made it just one step more difficult because it's not just ammo. You are managing puzzle pieces, you're managing keys. And I also like one little thing, I don't know if it exists in the original, but if you've used the key item fully, like there's no other purpose for it, it will tell you. The game's like, you don't need this anymore. You can get rid of it. And I like that.
In the original, it just automatically threw them out. Now it just puts a little mark next to it and you make the decision to throw it out.
Yeah, so I wonder if it will let you throw out something that you haven't fully used yet. And if you're just locked out, if you like soft lock your game or some shit. Because you don't just drop it on the floor. That shit disappears forever. I wonder how the game works with that.
You can't get rid of key item. When you like key items, you can't just throw them away and lock your game up.
Oh.
If you notice, if you leave something behind, the map marks it, so you know what's in that room, so you can go back if you.
I like that too. I like that the map will show like a room, and if it's red, you know that there's still something to be done there. But if it's blue, you know you've completely exhausted, as of right now, the uses of that room, which I think is nice too. And it helps a lot for like a blind run, like you have no idea what to do. I think the game does a good job of pushing you in the right direction without directly telling you exactly really what needs to be done.
If you can't tell, like we kind of have to stretch to find bad parts. Like that one thing I would have liked to have seen change, and I would have liked to have been able to turn on fixed camera angles. Like the only reason why I bought the special edition of the game, number one, because I didn't know there was an issue with a statue until it was too late to get one.
Uh-oh.
But I only got it because it comes with the original soundtrack, so I can turn on the original soundtrack, and I fully intend on playing this game more than once. So my next playthrough with the two characters, after I do it the first time, because the first time I'm doing it without a strategy guide, because I thought about trying to 100% it on the first run through, and it would have been all reading or watching videos over playing the game, and I think that's going to really rip off my experience. So I'm just running through it blind. And then the second time I run through is when I'm going to try and platinum it and get the guns.
Okay.
And I'm gonna do that with the original music playing, and I'm really
Nice.
excited to fucking do that. And I don't have a lot of time to play video games, which is part of why I'm a little antsy about getting involved in this project anyway, because that's a decent chunk of time the first run through. The 2 speed runs are going to take me about 6 hours collectively. That's not too awful bad. That's like 2 nights. That's not horrible. But the first run I'm running, because I have to start over because I was trying to play through the entire game without saving. Well, that's not entirely true, but that's what I ended up doing.
Oh.
Well, I told you about that. Like, I had gotten really far, and then I was like, shit, it's probably time for me to save because it's been 2.5 hours and things are going way too well. Like, it's about time I ran into a fight that's going to be really fucking lay me out. And so I was on my way back to save, and then I rounded a corner and I ran into a liquor. And I mean, I was running when I ran it. You know how you can sneak past them? It was right next to the fucking corner.
Yeah.
So when I ran past, it immediately perked up. So then I booked and I ran back and I ran down the hallway and around another corner and I ran into another liquor.
Yeah, they
and the first one clipped me, and when you're playing on hardcore, you get clipped by a liquor once, your health is usually in the red.
You get touched. If you get touched by anything once, a zombie grabs you, you're in danger. You get hit by a liquor, you're in danger for the most part. Some of the later enemies don't do as much damage, and then there's herbs you can get for damage reduction and stuff, which is nice.
Yeah.
But if anything sniffs you or fucking spits on you, you are at danger. You cannot get more than twice in a fight unless you have the herbs to keep you buffed. So it's... And there's like in regular, I was watching, if you get grabbed from a zombie from behind, you have a chance of just not getting touched. You'll just kind of shake off the zombie. Leon will just shake off the zombie. If a zombie is within your hitbox at all and they know of your existence in hardcore, they grab you and they bite you unless you have a knife or a flashbang. There's nothing else you can do. You are getting fucking bitten. You are going to danger and you will be hurt. If you get poisoned...
Yeah, the whole counterattack thing's brand new. That wasn't in the original.
Yeah.
You just automatically pushed them off. And I mean, they would always grab you if they got close enough and you couldn't kill them. The zombie would grab you and bite you. You would always take damage, but you took less damage. So you got hit more in the original game, which the original game was about the difficulty of hardcore, with the exception of you took less damage from attacks, but you would get attacked more. And in this one, they usually give you, because you've got the 2 sticks and the more maneuverability, the dynamic has changed now. So they can, the enemies are faster, they're smarter, except for zombies. Zombies are still dirt stupid. And because you take so much damage, they usually give you enough room to maneuver. Like if you die in Resident Evil, it's normally because the game was thinking faster than you are. Like there's usually a way in this game to avoid or survive the fights. Like it's not like you can back yourself into a corner because you can see the corners now.
I've done it.
I just happened to fucking run around the corner and I wasn't listening, because in Resident Evil 2, you do not run anywhere unless you have to. You stop and you listen because everything makes noise.
I've had times where like I would go down an area and come back and not realize that area like splits off and I went down the wrong split. So then here I am in a corner and I got 3 zombies behind me and I just accept my fate. Good thing is because of the animations in this game, you can damage boost through a shitload of stuff because nothing really one-shots you. At least nothing I've come across, but I haven't beaten the game yet. Nothing really one-shots you, but you'll always take damage. So you take damage in a group, they knock you down, you get up, and they're all kind of stunned for a second, and you basically run past everything and you damage boost through stuff. And I did that for a lot of encounters. I never fought the lickers. I didn't kill a single licker, or I haven't killed a single licker, just because I said fuck you, and I would either sneak or just not go in that room that they existed. Because there's like, after you do one...
They take a shitload of ammo too to kill.
Even the regular zombies do. Like, I've had zombies take full-on shotgun shots to the head. Like, they were literally right in front of me, and it would blow off every chunk of their head except their brain, and they would still come at me and try and bite me. So, and they'd be alive still. So, also, one thing to be said about this game is the body damage and the way the zombies react to being shot is really fucking well done. like how like you when you cut zombies you can see the gashes open up in them in the specific spots. If you shoot them in a certain part of the head, you will watch reactively their head like bits fly off in wherever you shot them. It's so well done and like realistic, like it feels like you're actually shooting through like a head, and it adds so much more of that horror when you got a zombie that's got like 3 holes in his head and there's bones sticking out walking towards you than one that's just been shot a few times and has like little like bullet hole PNGs all over his face. It's incredibly well done, and the game's gorgeous too. Super pretty.
Yeah, it's really, this is the way to do it, and it's really not truly a remake, and it's not truly a remaster. It's something else.
Like a
because
reimagining?
It's a little bit of that, but they didn't change any of the story. Like, I don't really know, man, because it's more than what a remake is. No, it's more than a remaster by a landslide. But a remake, I guess no, it's not really. I don't know.
Just
I guess
call
you
it a
could say it's
super remaster.
super remaster. It's pretty impressive.
Okay, so
Like what they did with it. Like I'm happy with it, and I just hope against hope that this serves as an example, so they can believe that they can take other games and they can kind of bring them into modern times without changing what the game is.
yeah.
You know, you don't have to do what they advertise with Final Fantasy VII. You know, like Final Fantasy VII is a complete reimagining, and they're changing story elements and they're changing facets of the game, and they're taking away some of the stuff that made it what it is. And that's absolutely just not something that has to be done. Like, and the point being proven is how Capcom handled Resident Evil 2. Like, say what you will about some of the other stuff that they've done, because Capcom hasn't exactly been saints recently. But this is proof that it's completely and utterly possible to take an original product. I will say this much, though. If you played Resident Evil 2 and then you go and play the remake, this does not feel the same. Like, it does not feel the same at all. Like, they do not feel like the same game. And I wish they did, but they don't. There's certain... I think part of it is just you can only release Friday the 13th once before you know Jason. And no matter how many more times you do Jason, you're always going to know him. You can only release Scream once before you know Ghostface. And because Resident Evil has existed and it's been so deeply entrenched in popular video game culture, you really can't surprise somebody with this game again. So maybe that's it. I'm not really sure. But I will say that while it's not the same experience, it is Resident Evil 2, and I love it. And I'm really, really happy about it. And I'm happy that my generation that grew up with Resident Evil and, you know, help support this series and support Capcom is getting some love to one of our titles.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to bring Resident Evil back and make it relevant again, then there's hope, like what you and I have talked about a lot of these classic franchises that haven't gotten any love or have gotten ignored, and they're not getting preservation the way that they should. You know, there's hope that gaming might save itself. I don't know really how else to put that.
Okay, so
but I think they did a great job. The voice acting's great, the music's great, the graphics are great. The puzzles are still just tough enough.
Speaking of voice acting, what are you playing on, English?
Huh? Yeah, because all the originals were always on English.
Leon sounds like a fucking bitch in English compared to the Japanese. I've watched a regular playthrough in English, and I'm playing on the Japanese playthrough on hardcore. Leon actually sounds like he's got some hair on his balls in the Japanese version, and I understand he's like cop, first day on the job, cop, blah blah blah, rookie cop, but he doesn't have to sound like a 15-year-old. I don't know. It's just weird, and it's stupid. It's not even a gripe. It's just, I don't know. He just sounds like
his normal voice actor back from Resident Evil 4 and from Resident Evil 6.
I just think his Japanese one sounds like actually it fits his face and body a bit more. I don't know, but then again, I haven't played a lot of Resident Evil, so That okay, real quick
I've never played a Resident Evil game in Japanese, so I'm not going to start now.
before we wrap this all up and we end this episode, we're gonna name like a few franchises that you would like to see this treatment, like a reimagining in this way, new engine, same environment, same story, same characters, but just modernized, basically. I for one want the original Silent Hill this way, and now that'd be a whole different story because I don't know if I want the. They don't. I don't know.
You'd need to keep the fixed camera angles with Silent Hill.
That's what I was thinking, and I still just want to see it prettied up and modernized, and just to play it, and maybe the combat not being dog shit. Although it wasn't like super dog shit, but it was still kind of. I understand the reasoning behind it because it's supposed to be like scary, but I hate not feeling like I don't have control over my character, and you can employ other methods.
I don't know.
In game design.
I think Silent Hill would definitely work if they brought it back. I think it's completely possible. I don't trust Konami to.
I don't either. Give it to a fan,
but
dev or some.
I think you could do it. I think maybe it might be even possible without with the camera, maybe without fixed camera angles. But it would take really like a real strong attention to level design. Because I mean, like Silent Hill was just really grimy. And I mean, you could easily put trash and heaps of junk and bodies and dead babies and shit in different areas. I don't know. I think it's completely possible. But I think if you did that, I would definitely consult the guys who worked on the remake of the because what's his name left. So what the fuck was that thing called? The demo?
PT.
PT, yeah. So the American crew that remade PT, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think so.
I would consult those guys.
Okay.
Because they did a good job with the
I'm still
lighting.
sad that game never came to be. I was so interested to see what that would be.
PT gave you control over the camera, and it still felt Silent Hills-ish.
Yeah.
So I think it's possible. It'd take a really creative director, and the Silent Hill team that worked on the previous games isn't with them anymore. So I don't know. But it would be nice. I'd like to see Final Fantasy 8 and 9 remade, Final Fantasy 6 especially.
Now, would you want it to stay really turn-based and just modernized?
Yeah.
Okay. So like the newest Dragon Quest kind of thing, where it's just like super pretty, but it's the same thing for the most part.
With Dragon Quest, they did nothing to bring it forward except for make it pretty. And Dragon Quest has always been fairly attractive since it bumped into the 3D era. But Dragon Quest is a different beast. Like I don't know. Like I think that if you're gonna remake the game, you need to keep the spirit of the original game alive. So if you were gonna remake something like 15, for instance, you wouldn't switch it to turn-based because it wasn't originally turn-based. Now 15 is a pile of fucking garbage, but it's pretty garbage and it's still fun garbage. Mm-hmm. It's still trash, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have its fun parts. Like I still like playing the game. I just know that it's never going to be finished, and that's a thorn in my craw. Like that's just disgusting. You should never have brought it out if you didn't have it finished. And I don't like the fact that you took a mainstream series and then changed the type of game it is. You should only do that with spin-offs and side stories.
Games that you want to see get this.
6, those should be turn-based.
Okay.
They should keep a semblance of their original junction systems or materia systems or whatever it is that they used. But you can always take the parts that were weak and polish them up, like with Resident Evil. They got rid of the fixed camera and they made it much smoother to play. They got rid of tank controls. They made the enemy AI a little bit better. They rebalanced how damage and things work. It is a new game. It is new from the ground up, but it's still Resident Evil 2. They found some way to walk that line, and I think it'd be great to do those. I think it'd also be great to see Castlevania make a comeback. And I think it would be great to see that series come back as both a side scroller and a 3D game, because they did have several 3D Castlevania games that worked quite well, and players were bitches, so they didn't put the money there like they should have. But especially the second one on PS2 was excellent. I'd like to see that one come back.
Okay. I've been thinking the whole time, and I think I don't remember much about the game.
Blood Rain.
Is that the?
I love those games.
Okay.
I think it'd be cool to see stuff like Blood Rain come back. Blood Rain 2 was epic.
Thinking, I would like. I don't remember much about these games, but I think it'd be cool to get like a single player / multiplayer, like modernized, like really well done. Because it probably wouldn't be if this were to happen, but very well done, like Perfect Dark or something like that. I think that'd be pretty cool.
The last Perfect Dark they brought out was trash.
Yeah, I have no faith that a game like that will ever come to fruition, but it would be really cool to see if dreams did come true. I just got to get cancer and talk to Make-A-Wish. Will be fun.
Yeah, and then get the original Rare team back together.
Yeah. But
I would really genuinely like to see the Red Faction games come back. And I think that would be a great series to start back over from the beginning and give it the same kind of treatment.
I could see that. That'd be cool. See like a modernized original Red Faction.
Yeah, and they could even use the I don't remember who bought Vigil, or not Vigil, but whatever the game. I used to know the name of the studio. I don't remember now, but Volition, I think, was the name.
Yeah, it is Volition.
They could even use, because I noticed.
Didn't they go down? Didn't Volition go under, or were they bought by something? I think they no
were
longer
purchased and dismantled, if I remember correctly. I think either EA or Activision bought them and destroyed them. That's what they do, especially Activision. But I think
they were under THQ, and THQ filed for bankruptcy, so they let go a lot of their assets. Actually, so they were sold during an auction.
Yep.
Oh wait.
Didn't THQ also own
Volition?
Vigil?
Volition, yeah, I think so. In 2013, Volition was bought by Koch Media, and with future titles being published under its Deep Silver brand. The Red Faction and Summoner franchises were not acquired by Deep Silver, except they were acquired by Nordic Games. After following the release of... Yeah, they're still around. After following the release of Agents of Mayhem, which was a fucking dumpster fire, Deep Silver had laid off 30 employees, including managing director Dan Cermak, who was replaced by Jim Boone as developmental creator October 9th. So, a rough patch. Definite rough patch.
Didn't Deep Silver make a game that we liked, though?
Let's see. Oh, Deep Silver, I mean, they published, they didn't actually make it because they're just a brand, but they published the zombie game on that Hawaiian island or whatever. Fuck was it called?
Oh yeah, Dead Island.
They technically they're publishing Shenmue 3 as well. They're the European publishing team for Shin Megami Tensei, which is interesting. They published Mighty Number 9, Dead Island, yeah. And Dead Island had such a cool trailer. You remember that trailer with that little girl that falls out of the building?
I remember the one with the boat and the DJ.
Oh, I would recommend looking up that trailer if you guys haven't seen it. It was really cool. I think just like Dead Island trailer, original trailer or something like that. And it's like a girl falling out of a building and she just like slams into the ground, and it's all done in slow motion, and it reverses back up to how it all happened with like zombies breaking into the room. Yeah, that was a cool ass trailer.
Wasn't there a sequel or a game that was released with like it took place on an island with zombies, and there was different kinds, and one of the zombies was really tall, and you could get like vehicles and drive around and guns and shit. And
It's Dead
there was
Island.
a expansion that took place like in a hospital or something, or near a hospital.
I think that's Dead Island, dude.
But there was the really tall zombies have like, they look almost like aliens. They have like dreadlocks or
Yeah,
something, and
and
like
they could
crazy jaws.
and they could kick you and you go flying.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Dead Island.
There was an expansion that was proposed where you were in a city. It took place in a city.
I know they
And,
had. I know they
the
had the
suburbs of Dead
second
Island.
game. Like they made a second Dead. No, are you thinking of Dying Light, the parkour zombie game?
No.
Because that's in
definitely not that.
Okay. Well,
Because I remember watching somebody play, and there was like houses with backyards and shit, and that's all I remember. It was a YouTube video, and I don't know if that was official or if it was like, I was just thinking idly. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be doing that on the podcast. But Resident Evil 2 is awesome. It's a perfect example of the way to redo something the right way. And it's not a perfect game, but it's so good that you like it. It's a 9 out of 10. It's so good. Like, you're gonna love it. You're gonna enjoy playing it. You're gonna have fun playing it. And if you prefer to play it like they did with 4, 5, and 6, where you can save wherever there's a save point or whatever, that's okay. I'm not gonna knock it completely.
I will.
But
You're a bitch.
but the way the first 3 games worked was you had limited saves throughout the game. You basically
Ink
had
ribbons.
about 3 saves per, because each typewriter would have an ink ribbon nearby that had 2 to 3 saves on it, and then the chest, and you keep extra ink ribbons in the chest, and there was always a chest near most of the typewriters that were in safe rooms. Not all of the typewriters, but most. And so you'd have, I think, maybe 20 saves or 25 saves or something like that in a run.
All right.
Most people didn't need that many. But
All right.
it's kind of interesting to see what they do with this
All
this
right.
one. They don't give you as many ink ribbons, that's for sure.
They do not. I've only had probably about 12 saves, and I'm probably like 70% through the game, kind of thing. Or at least Leon's playthrough. All right. That'll pretty much wrap up the episode. Another long episode. We do all these. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect to have like a full blown conversation with the Odyssey one because I hadn't like fully read what it was. So that lasted longer than I expected it to. But that's fine.
I don't really think it should have gone on that long.
All right. We're gonna call this. This will be the end of episode 83. We shall.
This is my pink parts.
We shall bid adieu to all of you. I hope you all have a great week. Whatever we talked about on this podcast, you want to hit us up again, further that conversation, let us know either through Discord, email. Again, all of those options will be below in the description. But before we go, as always, I shall leave you all with a thought. Iceland consumes more Coca-Cola per capita than any other nation.